It is a gorgeous day on the campus of Trinity University in beautiful San Antonio, Texas. We could not ask for a better setting or a better matchup on this alumni weekend as the Berry Vikings sail into town to face the undefeated Trinity Tigers. It's a battle for first place in the conference right here on Tiger Network. And as we fly in live to Trinity Football Stadium, it is right about time for kickoff. And here we go. Underway between the Vikings and the Tigers, a touchback to start things off for the Tigers. And I'm Brian Yanselson here with Luke Terry once again. Luke, happy to be back with you after a crazy matchup last time we were together.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. Just unbelievable how that game came to a conclusion when we had Birmingham Southern in town just 2 weeks ago. I was left speechless. You brought us to the very end of that game. 20 seconds just about left on the clock when Tucker Horn connected with Carter Self, down by just 3 to take the victory over Birmingham Southern, game that came down to the wire. But we should have another good one here today as Barry comes into town.
Absolutely. The good matchups just keep on rolling into town. We are so fortunate as this first play gets off the line of scrimmage. It is a Justin Carmouche run for a couple of yards, and things are officially underway in San Antonio. The Trinity Tigers ranked 6th or 7th, depending who you ask. AFCA saying number 6, the D3Football.com saying number 7. But nonetheless, the Tigers are undefeated and playing extremely good football, 3-0 in conference play, and facing a Berry team that is 4-2. So it will be a good one. Another run from Justin Carmouche, a spin move not going far, and it'll bring up a 3rd and long for the Tigers.
Yeah, and Ryan, this is exactly what we've gotten used to seeing so far this season. Steady doses, both in the running game on the ground and also through the air, but 2 runs that don't go as far as we're used to seeing, right? Carmouche, Grigsby, the guys that come in, rotate at the running back position, consistently getting 4, 5, 6-yard chunks on 1st and 2nd down. But now the Tigers in a 3rd and 8, clear and obvious passing down. Interesting to see where Tucker Horn's going to go early on in the air here.
Horn's first drop back gives him some time, and he goes to Ryan Merrifield, who has some room to work with for a first down. And no surprise to see Ryan Merrifield as the target. Leads the team with receptions, make that 30 on the year now for Merrifield.
Yeah, Ryan, and pre-snap, a lot of movement from those Vikings linebackers, kind of jumping back and forth. Horn not ultimately sure where they were going to come from, but a really clean pocket. He steps up. Merrifield just dragging across the middle. He's wide open as those backers dropped back a little bit, and no one was covering him underneath.
So 1st and 10 for Tucker Horn and the Trinity Tigers. And he drops back again, looking right now towards the middle. Not much working, so he takes off and runs with it and gets a good gain of about 3 or 4 on the first down. So Tucker Horn, as we've seen throughout the year, when he faces trouble, not afraid to take off and run to secure a few yards.
And again, pre-snap, there was some movement from those Viking linebackers. That time, it looked to be number 32, Connor Chayunsky, who timed the snap pretty well, but the offensive line doing its job and holding up again there for Tucker Horn. Just ultimately really good coverage in the secondary, but he's able to scramble, pick up a couple of yards with his legs, and put him in a 2nd and medium at 2nd and 7 right here.
Tucker Horn to Rainey here on the near side of the field, and Rainey takes off with it and gets a first down and more. A good run after the catch for B.J. Rainey, the sophomore from Cedar Hill, Texas, getting some early playing time, and it's another Trinity first down.
And you're going to see Rainey do really well to make the first guy miss right here, but the big run after the catch is set up by the Ryan Merrifield block. He sealed the edge right there. Rainey was able to get back up field inside of it, and ultimately that's why that was about a 15-yard gain instead of probably what would have been a 5-6-yard gain if Ryan Merrifield doesn't secure the edge right there.
Empty backfield here for Tucker Horn, 5 wide receivers. Looking across the middle, and another wide open man. And look who it is. It is the hero himself, Carter Self, the recipient of the game-winning touchdown with just 13 seconds left 2 weeks ago against Birmingham Southern, reappears here early in the game with a first down catch. So early, the Tigers are clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, and outside of those 2 runs, first and second down, those first 2 plays at a scrimmage, everything's been going right. Tucker Horn's timing has been perfect, and his receivers have just gotten to their spots in this zone and have been wide open. It's something that we talked about with Coach Urban coming into this matchup. So we see another run right there. That time looked like Winston Hutchison getting some early action, something that we haven't seen a ton this year. Spent a lot of time injured in the early games of the season, came in kind of situationally as the years progressed, but good to see him in the first drive of the game. But something that we were wondering about with Coach Urban was, when you have a Barry team coming in as hot as they are with a huge comeback win last week at center, what do you need to do early on? And establishing rhythm to control the game is something that he really harped on. It's exactly what the offense has been able to do here on their first drive.
And the Barry defense struggling to stop the Tigers on this first drive, so they will call a timeout, try to stem this momentum that the Tigers have gained to start the game. And it gives us a chance to formally welcome you. We got our drone footage for the very first time. That was awesome, Luke, isn't it? Just so cool that we keep improving on Tiger Network week in and week out.
Yeah, such an awesome shot. I know, Brian, obviously, on the broadcast last year, we had that shot sweeping over the baseball field as we came into games, but so different when you have that live video, especially here when the stadium here at Trinity is packed for alumni weekend. A lot of people out here, a really different level of energy today.
Yeah, really the buzz is palpable across campus. You get a beautiful shot at it here. The stands continue to fill up, and you see people just lining up all around the field, even if they're not in the bleachers. There's a big red tent set up in the end zone just beside it, and we've got a tailgate going on before the game. Just so much cool stuff happening at the campus of Trinity University. We even have a volleyball match over there at CalGuard Gym that should let out pretty soon. I know the volleyball team will be headed over here as well, so just very excited to have everything going on at once, and we couldn't be happier to be here at Trinity University. Out of the timeout, Horn looking to Merrifield, and Merrifield hauls it in. That's going to be an interception. Actually, Merrifield went up for it, and it looked like he might haul it in, but instead, it is an interception from Christopher Thomas. Let's take a look at the replay here as Horn looking to his favorite receiver, and he goes up for it. Some contact there initially, it looked like, and then Thomas just pulling it out of the hands of Merrifield, and the officials are going to call it an interception. So quite the turn of events there, Luke.
Yeah, I think you were right on the call, Brian. Ultimately, at first glance, looked like Ryan Merrifield went up and looked like he was going to come down with it, but just didn't secure it. And a great play in the secondary for Barry right there to have the presence of mind to take the ball away from the Tiger receiver. And now, after what was a really shaky start defensively outside of those first 2 plays, the ball's in their hands and the Tigers don't have any points on the board.
And all sorts of things to catch up on after that interception. First, it's an interception from the Texas native out of New Braunfels, Christopher Thomas, who went to high school in Georgia but grew up here in New Braunfels, so quite the homecoming for him. And then one of the big questions we had on offense for the Barry Vikings is who would start at quarterback, and we have our answer. Blake Hembry getting the start as a second run in a row for Josh Rogers. Looks to be enough for a first down, but Luke, the Barry Vikings started this year with Gavin Gray at the helm. He started for the first 4 games. But over the last 2, Blake Hembry has come in and led the Vikings to some big victories.
Yeah, and for Gray, maybe just some circumstantial struggles, right? You look at the last 2 games he played include matchups against Whitewater, University of Wisconsin, who's a top 10 team in the country, has played one of the toughest schedules all year long, and then to turn around and start SAA play against Birmingham Southern, 2 really, really tough opponents. Obviously going to struggle offensively against those types of defenses, and he threw 3 interceptions in those games. They didn't throw a touchdown in that span, but Hembry's returned. He's come back, and against maybe not as stout defensive teams, he's been able to find success. He's been good in the air. He's thrown a couple of touchdowns himself, and he hasn't turned the ball over. I think that's one thing you have to highlight. This team's been better, taking care of the football when he's been in there at quarterback. And that's exactly what they're going to need to continue today, as that one ends up on the ground. It looks like Hembree's going to jump on it as a flag flies.
Yeah, the snap never getting to the quarterback, Hembree, but he did pounce on it. We'll see what the penalty is as well. False start called on the offense, so move them back 5 yards. But Luke, as you highlighted, those games against Whitewater and Birmingham Southern really forcing Tony Konchesky's hand, the head coach for Barry. He told me that it really wasn't anything to do with how Gavin Gray was playing. They just felt like they needed a new spark, needed a new punch at the quarterback position, and so they went with Hembree. And since he stepped in against Rhodes and against center, the scoreboard has been lit up. And so going with Hembree for a third consecutive game, and we'll see what it results for the Vikings as they come into San Antonio looking for revenge after the Tigers went into Georgia last year and beat them on their alumni weekend. And it is alumni weekend here, so the Vikings really looking to pay back the Tigers. A pass here to the far side of the field is complete, but a gang of Tigers meet the receiver right there. It is DeAndre Wilson, the junior from Clarksville, Tennessee, who gets a gain of 6 and brings up a 3rd and 6 for Barry.
Yeah, and a good job from Casey Hampton filling from his safety position right there. Looked like there was a pretty solid block out on the perimeter. So if he's able to make Hampton miss on the edge, he's got a lot of space out there. But a good job defensively from the Tigers. Only a 5-yard gain on that throw to the outside, and that sets up Barry now in about a 3rd and 6. Really shot themselves in the foot right there with that false start penalty.
And an incomplete pass to the outside receiver. Cam Kawa was the intended target, but the defense all over him, and the quarterback had to force it out quickly. As we take a look at the replay, Hembree just taking a short drop back, and Malik Ross not giving Kawa much room to work with. So 4th down now as the punting unit on for the Vikings.
Yeah, Brian, I go back to that false start penalty. Mention the fact that kind of shoot themselves in the foot right there, especially considering the fact that this Barry team is the best team in the SAA when it comes to penalties. They don't get penalized very frequently. But on the other hand, this Trinity side has. They're the most penalized team in the SAA. In that game a couple of weeks ago that they were penalized twice as much as the Birmingham Southern side. So something to watch in this game, obviously affecting things early on with that mistake right there. Puts them in a 3rd and medium, 3rd and long, rather than a 3rd and short. And ultimately, the ball is back in the hands of the Trinity offense.
So the interception not doing the Tigers any harm other than taking those points off the board, but the defense standing strong and giving Horn yet another opportunity to work with his offense. Caleb Crawford into motion at the top of your screen. And a 1st and 10 on this new drive starting from the 20. Horn dropping back again, facing pressure, has to step up and finds Hutchison, who makes a catch. No, he had it until he landed on the ground. He had some Vikings coming at him as well. Nearly a spectacular grab for the running back.
Yeah, and it just was a matter of Hutchison kind of turning his eyes, which kept him from continuing to move downfield. He kind of pauses right there as he turns around. If he keeps running, that one falls right into his hands, but obviously the safety kind of moving in that direction would have been a pretty big impact, but ultimately, as you mentioned, it was the ground that jarred that one loose.
But here goes Hutchison carrying the ball on 2nd down, gets a nice gain of 5 to bring up a 3rd and more manageable for the running back who led the way for the Tigers a year ago, over 600 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns to lead the Tigers, but this year has been more on and off, has been sharing time with Legend Grigsby and Justin Carmouche, as Hutchison has been dealing with an injury, so good to see him really featured early on in this game, as we typically haven't seen him until about the second half. So we'll see what the Tigers have on 3rd and 5. Hutchison joining Horn in the backfield. Crawford into motion, and Horn looking that way initially, nothing there. Looking downfield now, and a big hit, but a big catch by Caleb Crawford. And that'll be another Trinity 1st down.
And one thing you're going to want to watch on the replay, we'll see it right here. Number 2 kind of getting upfield really well right there, but ultimately slips and falls. What makes this play is the fact that that Trinity offensive lineman there on the near side goes and makes sure that he stays on the ground. That play continued to develop after the fact. Tucker Horn stepping up in the pocket. If he goes untouched and gets up off the ground, I think he has a chance to get to Horn. But a good job from this offensive line results in a first down and a nice play right there. In 1st and 10, that ball swung out to Legend Grigsby, who's going to get about 3 yards. Something we're so used to seeing is Tucker Horn just using his backs really wisely, checking it down to them just to get those 3-4 yards on first down, because we see how frequently they can pop and go for a whole lot more.
And for Tucker Horn today, working without a couple of his key pieces as wide receivers, Austin Burtness remains out. Led the Tigers with 8 touchdowns a year ago, and then B.J. Stewart, who has been electric all season long, also not out there. So you have already heard a few different names out there, the likes of B.J. Rainey and Caleb Crawford. And so expect to see these wide receivers step up. But as we talked about with Coach Urban this week, Luke, that receiver position continues to be one that is stepping up when it matters most, whether it's Ethan Boyer, whether it's Carter Self. The big moments just don't faze these guys.
Absolutely not. And you think about it in terms of the type of guys that they have at this 2nd string, even 3rd string level in this wide receiver core. B.J. Rainey is a name we've already called once today. Big 15-yard pickup kind of in this region of the field as we see him go in motion. He's a guy, much like B.J. Stewart, as Horn's just going to check that one into the dirt on 3rd down. So we'll see what decision's going to be made from the Tigers right here. It looks like the punting unit's going to come on. But B.J. Rainey, much like B.J. Stewart, a really, really high-end, top-end speed guy. Both guys members of a record-setting, record-tying 4x100 relay. So both track stars that show their speed on the football field. So not lacking in that capacity here this afternoon, Brian.
4th down will bring out Eli Gaiman to punt. But absolutely, Luke, the receivers, especially Carter Self last week with that magical play, Coach Urban highlighting to us how he is the one that was filling in for Cole Monego, who is the one who is filling in for Austin Burtness. And so just next man up mentality, and Tucker Horn trusting his receiver in that big spot last week. It was really cool to see the replay slow down and going through it with Coach Urban, showing us that Tucker Horn just sent it to a spot 2.5 steps before Carter Self even turned around, and it was right there because these guys trust each other and confide that they will make the play. So now it'll be up to the defense to earn the trust of their teammates as they get the Vikings backed up on their own 6. A tough spot for the Vikings to be in. And it is Hembry back out there with his running back, Brandon Cade, there in the backfield. We'll see what they decide to do on 1st and 10. 5 minutes to go in this first quarter. Still scoreless from San Antonio. Snap going to be a run, and it's not going anywhere. Might want to get used to that. This Tiger defense does not allow the run, and it looks like it was Mac Douglas and Jacob Munoz combining for the tackle there.
Yeah, and you're going to see this setup, this formation that Barry's in right now is exactly how they lined up on that last play, Brian, with that sniffer to the right side of the offensive line. Everybody pushing down to their right, but absolutely no openings. Cade being forced to cut it back the other way, but Mac Douglas doing his job, exactly what he needs to do, sealing that edge, making sure he sets right there. That time just getting washed down a little bit, but a nice job from a Gunren at that linebacker position, stretching that one out a little bit, forcing Cade over to that sideline.
Brandon Cade and Josh Rogers, a dynamic duo as running backs, say average 155 yards a game, but this Trinity defense allows a 5th best in the nation, just 34 rushing yards per game. No team has gotten over the century mark against this Trinity defense on the ground, so it truly is strength against strength, and we'll see who will come out on top, as that will certainly be a key to the eventual outcome. Will the Vikings be forced to go to the air more than they'd like? On 3rd and 6, they might just have to, and they do. Hembry back to pass, nothing to work with, and he's brought down from behind, and it is Harris Good. Happy to be back out there on the field, happy to be playing back at home, and he makes a big 3rd down stop.
Yeah, Brian, Harris Good, another name that got brought up in our weekly meeting with Coach Urban. Early on this year, I think it was that Wheaton game, Harris Good only played about half the snaps, didn't play a whole lot in the second half or at all in overtime. missed the next game against Texas Lutheran. His team had a bye. He's just spent the last couple of weeks trying to get back into shape, and I think right now is the perfect time to say he is back. Great play right there on the interior defensive line, ultimately getting to the quarterback, and a great stop from that Trinity defense, not allowing Barry to pick up a first down, setting themselves up in really good field position after a nice little return right there already into Barry territory.
Yeah, Caleb Crawford getting the Tigers past midfield. He's filling in for B.J. Stewart back there. Was joined by Azariah Anderson, the two-man return game. And so the Tigers, with their best field position of the early game, early afternoon here in San Antonio, few clouds in the sky, just a perfect day. And we'll see if the Tigers can jump out in front. 12 minutes have gone by. Still no one on the scoreboard. Horn screen pass here to Will Taylor, and he had some blocks to work with, but a good tackle there before he could get to the space. Vikings reacting well to that. Jake Witten, the sophomore from Loganville, Georgia. And Tucker Horn looking to his sideline as B.J. Rainey steps off. Will Taylor remains in the game, and Will Taylor, a first year, as we talk about receivers popping up, the first year from Houston, had a touchdown last week against Rhodes, his second of the season, and he hasn't played a ton, but he has made his time worth it. So he might be a target for Horn, and look at Carmouche run past the 30 here, a big hole for the senior, and it is a first down for the Tigers yet again.
Yeah, and much more of what we're used to seeing from this Trinity offensive line. A really good initial push. You're going to see the hole open up on the right side. Carmouche hitting it hard and getting to that second level before he's even touched.
Sets up a 1st and 10 from the Barry 28. Horn with Carmouche to his left. Merrifield at the bottom of the field. And Will Taylor at the top. It is a run to Carmouche, makes a cut left, and they're not going to catch him. Carmouche takes off, and he's going to roll into the end zone for a touchdown. Justin Carmouche faced obstruction at the line, so he decided to turn left, and what a decision it was for the touchdown.
Yeah, and just a great run from Carmouche right there. As you mentioned, no openings on the offensive line that time, choosing to just bounce it to the outside. A nice block on the perimeter right there, but he stretched it outside that one, created the perfect angle for himself, and able to turn on the jets to get to the end zone.
Excellent block by Wyatt Bush there to allow Carmouche to bounce it to the outside, and it helped result in the first points of the game for the Trinity Tigers. Blake Lynn knocks through the extra point, and it is 7-0 Trinity early on in San Antonio. That's what we like to see, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. Tigers did a great job on that first drive, moved it right down the field. Unfortunately, Tucker Horn threw another interception, just his 4th of the year. I hate to say another, but you look at it, in the grand scheme of things, already more than he threw in all of last season's campaign. But that's a great answer right there, set up in large part because of the field position. Eli Gaiman doing a great job on that last Trinity punt, pinning Barry deep within their own 10-yard line, right about the 6, and then the defense held strong, forced a punt of their own, and Trinity, another home run play right there, something that we're not entirely used to seeing, but something that every great offense really needs to have in their repertoire is just the ability to get into the end zone from far out. They've had some red zone struggles this year, but great run from Carmouche right there to get them on the board here this afternoon.
Kickoff from Blake Lynn is off. And a nice return, but stopped by Azariah Anderson there around the 30. So that's where the Vikings will take over for Carmouche. That is a 4th touchdown of the season. And great to see for the senior from Cypress, Texas, who dealt with an ankle injury all of last season. Didn't get a ton of action on the field, but he is back and looking better than ever. He and Grigsby have been a great combo, with Hutchison as well filling in as he gets healthier. So really 3 big threats for running back for the Tigers. And now the Vikings back out there offensively. They have not been able to do much, so they'll try to change things. A first down pass is completed to DeAndre Wilson. And a first down right away for the Vikings. And this is a team that is not afraid to play from behind. They have been the Cardiac Kids this year. The first game of the year against Maryville, scored a game-winning touchdown with 16 seconds left. And then a week ago, they were down 14 in the third quarter, scored 21 points in the fourth to tie it up with 5 seconds left, sent the game into overtime. And then stop me if you've heard this before. They won on a blocked extra point in overtime. Just wild to think that that play never happens, and it's happened twice in this conference alone.
Yeah, but again, putting emphasis on special teams, Brian, I think that's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest surprises maybe since I've come onto the broadcast over the past 2 years is just the importance that these coaches and these teams place on special teams. And since I've heard that and had these conversations with Coach Urban, watched these games, I've noticed it more and more frequently. Obviously for Trinity, a huge, huge play is that one just off the fingertips of the big tight end. That time Walker Williams looked like he was wide open over the middle. Instead, it's going to turn into a 3rd and long for Barry as they operate at their own 45 right here.
And something to keep an eye on this replay, look at how the linebackers drawn into the run and then the tight end, as you said, wide open past the safety Phillips. So if he had brought it in, he had open turf in front of him. So we'll see how the linebackers continue to adjust. Talked about Barry wanting to run the ball, so maybe that play action will be their way to get some open plays. It is a 3rd and 8. Hembry faces pressure good again, but he goes to his right, and he's going to find the yardage he needs. Blake Hembry scrambling for the first down as the clock ticks down in this first quarter.
Yeah, on that one, Trinity recognizing it was a passing down in 3rd and 8 situation right there, choosing only to rush 3 as you see on this replay, and both of those ends dropping out. But ultimately they lose the edge. Hembry makes him pay with his legs. Really nice play from the quarterback to just get the yardage needed right there.
And a burst into the backfield, thought he might be brought down for a loss of yards. O'Gunran was there even before the running back was, but what a great job by him to escape that tackle and get a positive yardage to end the first quarter. Josh Rogers showing why he is a special talent there at the running back position, and it does wind down the clock to 0-0 in this first quarter. Trinity up 7-0 with those stats on your board. Not completely updated, so we can take you through some of those as well. But Luke, overall, just first impressions as this game gets underway.
Well, I think both ways we're seeing what we expected. Barry trying to establish the running game to this point, this Trinity defense doing a pretty steady job of stopping them. This probably the best Barry drive that we've seen so far, and even then, Hembry having to use his legs on a later down on that 3rd and long situation right there. But coming out of it, obviously a nice run right there from Josh Rogers. So a couple of things that hopefully this Barry offense can build on if they're going to look to have success today, and then open up some things from there. We saw the throw, the attempt to the big tight end, Williams, over the middle that, as we noted, was pretty much wide open as those linebackers got sucked down because of the threat of the run. So for Barry, as they've moved into Trinity territory now at about the 39-yard line, continuing to mix things in, continuing to run the ball and add things, add wrinkles off of that, I think is how they're going to have success today.
Out of the second quarter timeout, the Vikings ready to go on 2nd and 4 from Trinity's 39-yard line, but in fact may not be ready to go as Coach Urban is out there talking to head coach Tony Konchesky out there near the 40. Get a good look overhead with our drone cam today. Absolutely loving those looks, so thank you to Ryan and the control room especially for making that happen. But not quite sure what they would be talking about. Actually, maybe it is the drone as I see them look up to the sky. Would love to be in that conversation. But now we do have some updated stats for you, so 129 yards of total offense for the Trinity Tigers, 57 for the Barry Vikings, resulting in this 7-0 lead. So the coach is still not quite sure what is going on. Coach Konchesky now calling Urban back over. Gives us a chance to talk about just how big this game is, really. Trinity in first place of the Southern Athletic Association at 3-0 in conference play, but Barry right there behind them, just the one loss to Birmingham Southern, and it is all in front of them. Coach Urban actually the one to tell us that he expects championship level play from Barry, knowing that a championship is on the line.
Yeah, and that doesn't come as much of a surprise, Brian. You think about the SAA over the course about the last 10 years. This Barry team was the pride of the SAA probably about 5 years straight, maybe give or take a single season. They were champs in this conference. They were going to the playoff year in and year out. It's just been over the course of the last couple of years. Obviously, in that pandemic season, only 4 games were played. A true champion wasn't crowned. Last year was the first time in over the course of those 5 or 6 years that Barry was dethroned by this Trinity squad. And we look at it and look at how Trinity got played against by Birmingham Southern a couple weeks ago. This team, as they have become champion, is getting everyone's best shot now. The same thing happened when they went to Hendricks, who chose to kind of play them in a different capacity. It's not a surprise that Coach Urban expects this team, who has played at that level, at that capacity for so long, to come in today and to give them their best effort, considering the fact that this is a championship level program.
Big game for both squads for sure. We'll take a quick break on Tiger Network as we continue to figure out what is going on, and we'll get right back to you. Welcome back to Tiger Network. Looks like it's a communication issue. The Barry press box not quite hearing their headsets down on the field in the communication that they rely on, but looks like they might have figured it out. So 2nd and 4 from the Trinity 39. To start this second quarter, Hembry hands it off. And the running back game working on this second down play. Once again, it is Josh Rogers who gets the first down, and the chains will move as the Vikings march into Trinity territory.
Yeah, Brian, but much like that play that concluded the first quarter, again, we see a Trinity linebacker get into the backfield relatively untouched, just not able to make the play right there on that. That occurrence was Caleb Harmel. So Barry's drive is going to continue, but just showing you how close things have been the last couple of plays, and to the difference between a gain of 5 or 6 and a first down, as Malik Ross delivers a big pop right there on the outside, and it's just going to be a short gain.
Nice job by Ross to be there. Vikings trying that play action again. Brings up a 2nd and 9 after the gain of just 1 yard. But a nice job there, Malik Ross on the initial hit, but then had some help there as the receiver got past the initial contact. So Tigers helping each other out. Here goes Hembry again. Looked like the running back might have moved a bit early. Not going to be called, though, and it'll be completed to the outside. Kamari Smith, the freshman from Gadsden, Alabama, gets close to the first down marker. 3rd down and 1 coming up for Barry.
Yeah, Brian, but from Hembry right now, not really seeing any true drops. The Vikings trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly and negate this Trinity pass rush. So we're going to see another rush to the left side. Again, Josh Rogers able to pick up a first down on the 3rd and short right there. So the stick's going to continue to move for Barry on this drive.
Rogers, the SAA honorable mention a year ago, came into today with 330 rushing yards. Compare that to Brandon Cade's 390. And you can see why we've been talking about the balanced attack that this team has. But so far today, it has been almost exclusively Rogers. And he's done a good job for the Vikings as they find themselves just outside the Trinity red zone. Hembry looking to his tight end, calling him into motion. Walker Williams now set up to block perhaps. And he is. And some room after a gain of 5. Rogers again just methodically working their way down the field are the Vikings.
Yeah, and a nice run right there, weaving through some traffic and able to pick up 5. Not a whole lot of room to run in between the tackles early on in this one. Trinity doing a nice job of creating those jams at the line, but these running backs, as you mentioned, get a lot of reps. Both of them do. Both of them are used to seeing, I think, all sorts of looks. So you're going to see him take it again up the middle, just weaving through traffic and pick up another first down. It looks to be just outside of the Trinity 10-yard line. So perhaps we'll have the opportunity to pick up a first down at the 1, but Barry now inside Trinity's red zone.
And Rogers finally checks out, calls in Brandon Cade, the sophomore from Duluth, Georgia. He had the game-tying touchdown with 5 seconds left against center last week's fourth quarter. Vikings have it 1st and 10. Looking in the end zone, and better look away from Trey King. He had the initial tip, but the official throws the flag. And did he see some holding, some interference? Yes, he did. Pass interference going to be called on Trey King. And will give the Vikings a 1st and goal from just outside the red zone, the end zone.
And it looked like he might have just got that back shoulder kind of off the release of the wide receiver, Smith, right there. Outside of that, after he got upfield, looked pretty clean when the ball was delivered. But either way, as you mentioned, now 1st and goal for this Barry side, now at the Trinity 2-yard line. What has just been a great response on this drive after Trinity found the end zone.
Reaching for that goal line was Cade, but a nice job in the backfield to stop him just short. So it'll be 2nd and goal now for the Barry Vikings. Just strength against strength right here. Line of scrimmage against line of scrimmage. Do the Vikings go to Cade? You see Cameron Kawa at the top of your screen. He's guarded by Trey King. And Trace Wells coming into motion. It is a handoff, and it is a touchdown. Vikings punch it in with Brandon Cade.
Yeah, and just a steady dose in the ground game for Barry on that drive. Really established it in that second half when Rogers came in to replace Cade. Cade ultimately getting the riches with the touchdown right there. Cade getting the touchdown right there, but it was Rogers who picked up a couple of first downs, had a couple of nice 5-6 yard carries in Trinity territory as he weaved through that Trinity defense. And a great response right there from Barry. Certainly very important after Trinity was able to score that big touchdown. Came out of the gates hot with that first drive, even though they threw the pick in the end zone. Now it's a 7-7 ball game, and I think this is kind of what we expected. Barry now establishing the run. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Trinity offense right here. Going to be a little bit of a delay until we see that defense back out there for the Tigers, but how do they respond after that drive where Barry really handled things well coming off a Trinity touchdown?
I can just imagine if we had fantasy football at the Division III level, owners of these running backs would be upset if they had Rogers, who did all the work to get down there, and then they just get the 6 from Cade. But for the Vikings, it'll work. They're not worried about pleasing fantasy owners. They just want to get back into this conference race. And so far, we are getting that close matchup like we expected, and you talked about it, Luke. We expect nothing less between these two teams, Barry and Trinity, 2-2 all time. This is just the 5th meeting, which seems strange because when you think of Barry and Trinity, it seems like it's already been a rivalry that has really brewed over the last several years, ever since Trinity joined the Southern Athletic Association back in 2017. The first 3 matchups between these teams were decided by fewer than 4 points, But then last year, Trinity went into Mount Berry and crushed the Vikings 27-6 on their home field. At the time, it was just the second ever home loss for the Berry Vikings. And it was a rout when you compare it to the close games early on between these two teams. But it seems like we're back to form with a 7-7 game.
Absolutely. And Berry going to kick off here into the wind. Noticed it on the last Trinity kickoff, that one hanging up. So not the usual return man for Trinity, BJ Stewart, but that one short either way, not even reaching that last line of receivers. Instead, for Trinity, that was number 12 taking it. I think that's Tyson Cornett, who had a nice little return, getting the ball out to the Trinity 35 as the Tigers are going to come back onto the field looking to score a touchdown of their own.
Time of possession battle currently being won by Berry, which is surprising considering that coming into today, only 6 teams have held the ball for fewer time than the Berry Vikings. Just 25 minutes a game, but they have slowed things down and have held the ball for over 10 minutes today to Trinity's 8. And right here, stuffed at the line is Justin Carmouche. The Berry defensive front getting a good push and forcing a 2nd down and 10 if he was able to get back to the line of scrimmage.
And a good start for the Berry defense on that drive right there. Wheatcamp coming through from his linebacker position to make the stop. And ultimately setting Trinity just a bit behind the chains. So interesting to see what the play call is going to be here. Tucker Horn will drop back, deliver that one to the outside. And a nice catch and a missed tackle is going to allow it's number 19 out there, Caleb Crawford, to get up the field on the sideline. A nice gain of about 10 right there to put Trinity in a really manageable 3rd down position here.
And it was Jack Butler, the sophomore from Bogart, Georgia, who came in to make the 2nd tackle because, like you mentioned, Caleb Crawford making the first man miss, and if Bogart hadn't come in, he might have been off and running. So good job by Butler, the Bogart native, forcing a 3rd and 1. Carmouche in the backfield, Crawford into motion as he so often is. Horn does go to Carmouche, and Carmouche powers through for the 1st down.
And I think what everyone expected in a 3rd and short right there, Berry had loaded up the box trying to stop Trinity and force a 3 and out right there, but Carmouche with some nice downhill, hard-nosed running, able to pick up just enough for the 1st down. Give Trinity another set as, again, they look to respond right here.
Crawford into motion. Horn fakes it, and he has a man wide open. Merrifield hauls it in, and Merrifield trouts into the end zone for a touchdown. Confetti pops in front of us and put 6 points on the board for Ryan Merrifield.
Yeah, and again, Berry loading the box right there. This Trinity offense really all year long, Brian, has been so methodical, as you talked about in the opening, running the ball, throwing it short over the middle, checking it down to running backs. But a nice play fake right there really froze those members of the secondary who were ready to come downhill and make a tackle. It allowed Merrifield to get behind him, and right there with about 10 yards of separation, an easy pitch and catch between Horn and his favorite target on this campaign. So a great response. Another home run sort of score for the Tigers right there. And again, that's why that time of possession is the way it is here this afternoon. Berry running the ball really consistently on their last drive, but they find themselves behind even though they've controlled that time of possession because Trinity scored really quickly like they have on their last 2 drives.
5 touchdowns on the year for Ryan Merrifield, leads all Tigers. And I don't know if the Vikings were watching the Chicks concert at ACL over the past 2 weeks because those were some wide open spaces, Luke.
I knew that one was coming. You said Chicks, and you had mentioned it to me a couple weeks ago. I'm glad it found its way in.
I'm glad it found its way in, too. Meant wide open spaces.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing. It's a good sign for Trinity football if you're making a Chicks reference, Brian.
Definitely. Try to go 1-0 when the Chicks are mentioned on Tiger Network. We'll definitely keep a tally. We already keep track of hats falling off in baseball. We're going to start keeping track of slides in volleyball, so why not Chicks references on Tiger Network for football. If it means touchdowns, we will take it. And it's 2 touchdowns already for the Tigers, up 14-7. And Blake Lynn will be happy to continue kicking off. The reigning special teams player of the week gets another touchback. And we'll see if the Vikings are able to respond. Has to be difficult for an offense to be out there as long as they were. They were able to punch it in, but then you see your defense allow a touchdown just like that, and now you're forced to be back on the field. And don't let October fool you. It is still quite hot out here, and so if you're not used to this kind of climate, it can catch you by surprise. So if the offense has to be out there for a long period of time, could see that play a role.
Especially when they have taken the approach to the game that they have this afternoon, Brian. These offensive linemen have been at battle in the trenches, and they've done a good job early on, but they're not going to be able to rotate members of that line the way that this defense, this front seven, this box is going to be able to send some fresh guys in there. Obviously, Carson Bird, Harris Good, whose name we've already called on a sack early on today, Jacob Munoz in the middle, a lot of really important pieces. But there's guys that we've seen come off the bench. Amir Mustafa is someone who we saw earlier on today. He can come in and he can create that trench. He can create a stone wall for this Tiger defense. So something that's going to be important to watch is this Barry offensive line as efficient as they were on these first couple drives?
There was a good push by the defensive line on this play, but just not enough to contain Cade, who, kind of similar to Carmouche on his touchdown, went one way, saw that there wasn't anything to work with, and just reversed course, went to his right, and makes this a third and very short, less than a yard to gain for the Vikings. So you see Hembry getting out in front, not quite putting on a block, but the thought counts. And as we tick down below 8 minutes here in the second quarter, Tigers trying to come up with a big stop. Carson Bird, Harris Good, and Jacob Munoz lining up on the front. Mac Douglas looks to be coming as well. It is a run, and it is a first down. Barely over, but it counts for the Vikings.
And again, running backs just falling forward, understanding the down and distance where the line to gain is. Cade with a nice job of reaching out just ahead of that stick. So Barry doing a nice job right there, accomplishing that first feat when the opposing team scores a touchdown. Come out, at least set up or pick up a fresh set of downs. We're going to see Hembry drop back right there, swing that one out to Cade. A nice 4 or 5 yard pickup again. Kind of what we've been used to seeing from this Trinity offense. Methodical in those early downs, trying to shorten second and third down situations. We've seen them already in a lot of third and shorts, which they've been able to pick up. But it's been because of the way that their running backs have picked up 4 or 5 yards by weaving through this traffic in the middle of this Trinity box.
Second down and 7. Ezra Gore coming off the edge. Doesn't get there in time, but it was still enough to force a bad throw from Hembry. And Ezra Gore, the defensive player of the week in the SAA, had a pick 6 last week at Rhodes, his first of his career. And he forced a third down now for the Vikings, 3rd and 7 as you look at this replay. Number 30 coming at you, and Hembry had to get rid of it.
He might have almost set up another pick 6 for his secondary mate, Malik Ross, right there. Obviously in the face of Hembry trying to get that one out quickly. Not sure if he was really intending to get it all the way to his receiver, or if that one ended up in the ground because of the pressure of Gore, but Malik Ross was right there, and he's there again at the sticks. It's going to be some good fight from the wide receiver. Kawa able to pick up a first down with Ross on his back.
Kawa able to haul in 2 touchdowns a week ago against center. And in a big moment, Trinity trying to continue their momentum from that touchdown and stop them on 3rd down. Able to move the sticks, put it into Trinity territory. The Vikings hand it off to Rogers, and Rogers with a little leap gets about 2 on the first down carry. Brings up 2nd and 8.
And one of the issues here, Brian, we saw early on as Viking running back was able to switch course, saw nothing, kind of similar to a play like this. Obviously, on that one, running back Rogers choosing to go up over the top, pick up a couple yards that way, but earlier on this possession, they switched course coming back the other way. This Trinity defensive line, some of these linebackers have dropped, created three-man fronts, and when that's the case, is that one's going to end up in the hands of Trey King, who had slipped in coverage and just wound up on the ground in perfect position for that interception. He's going to do a little dance of his own. Saw him penalized earlier on in the game. In the end zone, led to a Barry touchdown, but as Barry was driving here again, trying to answer Trinity, he slipped and fell, but that one fell right into his lap. You can see the Viking staring at him right there in utter disbelief. A tough break for Barry, but it's going to set up Trinity at their own 30-yard line with a chance to take a bigger lead and just pad it a little bit more.
First down run from Hutchison gets about 3. And for Trey King, that is interception number 2 on the year. Just 3 interceptions for the Tigers this year, and 2 of them belong to the cornerback from Round Rock, Texas. And on that play, you could also see Ezra Gore once again forcing the pressure. He was blocked by the running back Rogers, but getting in the head of Hembry just enough perhaps to make that throw off and send it into the hands of King. A false start going to be called on Trinity to back them up to 2nd and 11. But Trinity's defense, time and time again, comes up big, and few players do it more consistently than Trey King. Second team all-conference a year ago. A very memorable performance between him and Malik Ross against Mary Hardin Baylor in the playoff game, just completely shutting down those receivers. And Ross and King again combining this year to help the Tigers on this undefeated start. A bad snap from Horn. He's able to collect it, but the Vikings pounce and force a loss of what looks to be 5, but lucky there is Horn to just have the ball still with him.
Yeah, an unfortunate break for Trinity right here, how things kind of just snowball. False start followed by a bad snap, and all of a sudden they find themselves well behind the sticks. Now in a 3rd and 15. Certainly in a manageable position, certainly an offense that has the capacity to pick up a first down on a play like this, but in a dangerous territory within their own 25 right here.
Vikings send 4, leave the running back open, Hutchison, but he's going to be well short of the first down, is able to get back to the line of scrimmage, but still 10 yards away from the marker. And so the Vikings, after the interception, stand up defensively and will get the ball right back. And it's worth noting this offensive line has been so consistent. Going back to last year, almost playing throughout the season the same 5 guys, but this year we have seen some injuries. We have seen some mix-up over there. And one of the new guys is the center, Caleb Bear, the first year from Grandview, Texas, filling in for Alex Steele. Now the punt from Gaiman will land at exactly the 25-yard line. Vikings will take over as Nate Lyons just making sure to secure the ball.
Yeah, but for one of the first times today, one of the first times all year long, really, Brian, we see Eli Gaiman punt from his own territory right at that 30-yard line, about where he kicked it from or about where the ball was snapped from. So frequently we see Trinity able to pick up at least a first down, maybe 2, kind of get around that midfield area position before they punt it away and pin guys deep. But a great punt right there of about 45 yards, and Barry's going to start from their own 25. But again, just a nice hesitation right around the line, and then hitting the hole hard again is Rogers. So as you mentioned, Cade got the riches on that last touchdown for Barry, but Rogers has had a lot of work. They've been feeding him with a spoon this afternoon, and he's delivered now a 2nd and about 2 for the Viking offense.
Hembry fakes it, faces pressure, has to step up, and escapes the grasp of the Tigers. James Agundren had him in his arms, but Hembry gets away and gets a Barry first down.
And perhaps one of the stories of the first half for this Trinity defense, Brian, is how close they have been, how frequently it has happened. O'Gunran, I've already called his name a couple of times on some missed tackles. Vikings evading him just by a few steps, just a matter of feet and inches, as that one's tossed and it's going to end up on the ground. Just an odd play right there. The receiver, it's going to be incomplete pass as that one was tossed forward. Didn't even look like the receiver expected it fully. You see on the replay, he put his hands up, but Hembry kind of shoveling that one forward a bit too far. Just an in-between play right there. Ultimately doesn't hurt the Vikings, but not a gain on first down as we've become accustomed to seeing from this offense. Instead, a 2nd and 10 from their own 39.
Hembry will go to his surefire option. But one of the shorter gains so far today for Rogers, just about 3, and it'll bring up 3rd and long, make it 3rd and 8. But on that little pitch, you can tell that Barry is trying to get someone new into the game, and coming into this drive, I wanted to make sure I hadn't missed anything, but I was correct, and I hadn't said the name of Bryce Herring so far, and the Vikings wanting to get him involved on that little pitch play as he came across in motion. But Herring, the freshman from Ackworth, Georgia, leads the team in receptions, but he has been shut down today, not been targeted at all. And the Tigers have done a good job keeping him out of this game. A 3rd and 8, crowd making noise. Here comes Gore again. Gore faces a bad throw, and it'll land on the sideline, but a flag is thrown late. And Trey King looking at him, can't believe it. Urban right there as well. Was that a catchable ball?
I think what's going to get called right here, Brian, is probably defensive holding. Officials might tell us pass interference, but it looked like Trey King was holding, prohibiting that receiver from coming back to the football. Just wise of Hembry to underthrow the receiver right here. It might not have been on purpose, but ultimately it creates that sort of contact. That was Wilson right there, but instead that's going to be ruled as uncatchable. I think the officials coming together, conferring, probably recognizing that Hembry was just trying to get rid of that football, not necessarily connect with his receiver. It just wound up in a position where one of his guys was close to it, and that contact obviously looked pretty bad, but Tigers not going to be hurt by it. Instead, the punting unit's going to come out for Barry, and Trinity going to have a 1.5 minutes and all 3 timeouts to try and find some more points.
Matthew Severson on for the punt. He has to range over to get it, nearly blocked. We've seen it before, just missing, and Caleb Crawford not calling a fair catch. Instead will be wrapped up at the 24 with 1:16 left, 3 timeouts for the Tigers. They hold on to this lead, would love to go into the locker room up 7 or more. And we can see on the track starting to gather themselves the class of 2022 for the Trinity Hall of Fame. They will be honored and officially inducted into the Hall of Fame at halftime. We'll have that for you on Tiger Network, hoping that you can hear the PA announcement through the broadcast, so stick around for that. But before that, Tucker Horn and Legend Grigsby in the backfield will look to make something happen. If they can make something happen with 20 seconds left on 4th and 5, you bet that they can do something here. Barry defense shows pressure. Horn sees it. Rainey sees it. Horn decides to go to Grigsby. Dangerous pass there as it was off the fingertips of Grigsby and nearly into the hands of the Barry defender.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was much of an effort to try and get 2 hands on the football right there. Imagine Grigsby could have thrown that other hand up there to try and secure it. Obviously creates a dangerous situation where it glances off, and there's a couple defenders sitting in that area, but ultimately no damage done, and Trinity going to hand it to him instead right here.
Grigsby gets a nice gain on 2nd down, but now The coin flips a little bit. Barry could decide to use their 2 timeouts to stop the clock. Doesn't look like they're going to. 3rd and 3 for Trinity, still going relatively quickly, already lined up. But a stop here for Barry could give them time to work with. Horn back to pass, looks to his left, and Caleb Crawford brings it in. Caleb Crawford makes a man miss and comes up with a key first down, even if the Tigers can't get points, just to keep it away from the Vikings here at the end of the half. And that is no easy man to make miss. Elohim Hull, the senior from Dallas, Georgia, leads this team with 36 tackles. He was the guy who blocked the extra point in overtime a week ago. But Caleb Crawford, shifty, getting the first down. And a timeout coming for Trinity with 40 seconds left in the half.
Yeah, and those first couple of plays of this drive, Brian, really ultimately dictating what Trinity was going to do offensively, right? The drop from Hutchison creates a situation where you don't want to try and pick it up in the air again, because if it's an incomplete pass, you're in a 3rd and long, 3rd and 10, and the clock stopped. You don't want to give Barry the ball back, so you run it up the middle. Ultimately, they pick up enough in that 2nd down play, but a 2nd and medium still don't want to go too quick, where if you throw an incomplete pass, it stops the clock and you have to punt it away. Really nice timing right there. And Trinity, still with 40 seconds on the clock and another 2 timeouts, are in a great position to now really, really speed things up, try and put some points on the board via field goal, or even get in the end zone as we saw them do so quickly last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me.
Horn and company back from the timeout. 4 wide receivers set. And Legend Grigsby in the backfield. Horn has some time. Merrifield tiptoes along the sideline, and it'll be a catch. Ryan Merrifield continues to come in clutch. Horn took a big hit at the back end of it, but he looks to be walking it off. And 3 Barry defenders were in the area, but Merrifield, perfectly placed ball. Look at those toes. And a first down, 35 seconds left. 2 timeouts still on the board for Trinity. Vikings rush 4. Horn, a little short on the pass, but a nice catch again from Crawford. And a timeout on the way from Urban and the Tigers. So they'll have it from the Barry 35, 27 seconds left in the half. And really, when you still have a timeout, still have the clock stopping after a first down, plenty of time to work with.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I imagine right here on this next play, you're not running anything that's going to wind up down short of the sticks. Even those little flares out of the backfield from the running backs should pick up a first down if they're running downhill, understanding where the down and distance is, or even just getting out of bounds on the sideline. But as you mentioned, a lot of time on the clock, also that timeout. I think the middle of the field still entirely in play, but this offense really clicking on all cylinders. That last play, that sideline throw to Ryan Merrifield, a great call. We saw the switch from those wide receivers as they crossed underneath, created a little bit of confusion in the secondary for Barry and a really big opening on the sideline. So I think everything's still in play for the Trinity offense right here, even on a 2nd down, in a position to pick up a first. Always threatening with the home run ball.
Teams are ready to go out of the timeout. Horn looking to pass, faces some pressure, and an interception again from Tucker Horn. This time it is Jake Witten who was there. Merrifield looked to be the intended target, but he had not turned around, was not expecting it. And that's 2 interceptions on the day for Tucker Horn. We'll get a look at this replay. The Vikings rushed 5, and it was enough to force Horn to get it off. Merrifield had turned around by the time the ball was there, but it was short. And so he did not have an opportunity to catch it. That's 6 interceptions now on the season for Horn. Had just 3 of them a year ago. And with 23 seconds left in the half, expect Barry to just run out the clock, head into the locker room down 7. They do hand it off. They go to the sideline, though, so the clock will stop with 17 seconds left, but missed opportunity for the Tigers as they look to get 7, could have maybe gotten 3 if they were in field goal position. Instead, they get 0.
Yeah, Brian, we talk about the home run ball. It looks like that's exactly what Tucker Horn was trying to hit on that one, but really had his eyes fixed on his favorite receiver all the way right there. Defensive back doing a nice job of reading that and just coming over to get in front of that pass. On the other side of the field, looked like Carter Self might have been open in a similar type of route, just streaking down, as that one's going to end up on the turf. It's going to have to see what the referees rule as to whether he was down or not. But first glance, looks like it's going to be Trinity football.
What a turn of events this would be. What do the referees say?
We'll look on the replay to see if we can get a better view, but right there, it looks like the football had started to move, and I think it is out, Brian, but on the field, it's going to go back to Barry. And their decision to run a couple of plays here instead of taking the knee is not going to hurt them.
Big time break for the Vikings. They should just secure the ball. They do here, head to the turf. And the clock reads 0. Tigers nearly got a second opportunity at the end of the half, but instead they'll go into the locker room up 14-7. Some points left on the board, though, for the Tigers, so the Vikings very much still in this game. 239 yards of total offense, a good performance for the Trinity Tigers. And now coming up at halftime, a very special ceremony for the Hall of Fame induction. So make sure to stick around. Don't go anywhere at the half, as we've got 8 great Tigers being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And at the other end of the halftime break, we hope to have Jeremy Boyce on the broadcast, the running back that was on that 2002 Stag Bowl team for the Trinity Tigers, is here. He will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then hopefully he can join us for a conversation. So stick around for the halftime ceremony, stick around for the great second half, and we'll see you on the other end.
Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the field. At this time, we will honor some of the most outstanding members of the University athletic community for the induction ceremony of the class of 2022 Trinity University Athletic Hall of Fame, which marks the 12th class to be inducted since the Hall of Fame was initiated in 1999. A plaque of each 2022 inductee is mounted on the Athletic Hall of Fame wall in the Williamstown Athletic Center alongside the previous classes. Photos are on these during the competition days are included on the plaques, as well as highlights of their athletics accomplishments. A committee selected the recipients for nationwide nominations. University President Dr. Vanessa Beasley and Director of Athletics Bob King chaired the selection committee, and Vice President of Enrollment Management Eric Lou directed the board for athletics to present the honorees with their special certificates. First up, Jason Armstrong, baseball. Jason earned a bachelor's degree in business administration with a specialty in marketing in 2004. He was the first team American Baseball Coaches Association All-American and the SCAC Player of the Year in 2004. Jason is Trinity's all-time career hit leader and broke 8 school records during his playing days. He was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays and played 5 seasons in minor league baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Armstrong. Next, Jeremy Boyce, football. Jeremy earned a bachelor's degree in communication in 2003. He became a 2-time All-American in 2002 from D3Football.com and Hewlett Packard. Jeremy is Trinity's career rushing leader and single-game record holder. He led the Tigers to a first-ever NCAA Division III Stag Bowl appearance in 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Boyce. Next, Sandy Stapp-Clifton, women's tennis. Sandy earned a bachelor's degree in history in 1978. She was a 3-time All-American, was a member of the United States Tennis Association National Championship team on 2 occasions. Sandy was the USTA doubles runner-up and a 2-time doubles quarterfinalist. She won the gold medal for the U.S. in doubles at the 1975 Pan-American Games. Ladies and gentlemen, Sandy Stapp-Clifton.
Hope you enjoyed that beautiful Hall of Fame induction ceremony. 8 very deserving Tigers, including one of Trinity football's own, Jeremy Boyce, and we hope that he will be able to join us in this quarter. So we'll update you if he does join, but as of right now, it is me, Brian, and Luke Terry still here with you, so not getting rid of us that easy.
Yeah, glad to still be here because I know if Jeremy Boyce comes on the broadcast, and I certainly hope he does, but I know it will be at my expense, Brian. So I want to be on air for as long as possible here with you this afternoon, especially with the game that we have going right now. Trinity set to kick it off. Blake Lynn kicking into the wind for a second time this afternoon. Set up Barry with a good opportunity to return this one as they trailed by just a touchdown, trying to knot things up here to start the second half.
A nice return out of the half for DeAndre Wilson for the Vikings, and they'll set up in their own territory, down 7. And the Tigers up 14-7, but they did leave some points on the field. They had 2 interceptions in that first half, both of them coming in scoring position, one of them in the end zone. And so this could be a lot more lopsided, but in the meantime, Barry hangs in there, continues to be right there in this game. Down just 1 possession, and they get the ball to start the half. So we'll see what Blake Hembry the junior from Villa Rica, Georgia, has to do, and he hands it off to the wrong side. A blown play and a fumble, and recovered by the Tigers. So what a start to the half for Trinity. It looks like it's Isaac Agumadu who comes up with it. And that play from the start looked to be a recipe for disaster. It looked like Hembry might salvage it, but then he lost the ball on the way to the turf.
And we'll see from the snap right here, things going the wrong way. It was Jacob Munoz almost tackling both of them, but then ultimately from behind, it was the combination of him and I think a gunrun you mentioned, duo right there that ultimately resulted in the ball coming loose. So the Tigers, with a nice break, the offense going to get back on the field after that interception late in the first half, and they're going to be in great field position inside the 35.
Pass to start the half. Ryan Merrifield, first down for the Tigers. And Ryan Merrifield continues to pace the Tigers as he so often does. That is reception number 4, over 90 yards now. And a Tiger first down at the 21 of Barry, looking to make some noise early in the second half. He has Carmouche in the backfield, Ryan Merrifield at the top, Caleb Crawford at the bottom of your screen. Crawford into motion, directing traffic is Horn. High snap again, but he corrals it. Carmouche making some cuts inside, gets a gain of 2, and it'll bring up second down.
Yeah, another opportunity for him to try and stretch that one on the outside, but recognizes there's a couple of Viking men in the secondary out there, instead choosing to cut back upfield, planting off that right foot and pick up what he can. So positive gain on first down nonetheless, but Trinity will operate in just about a 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8 right here, now inside the Barry red zone.
Barry showing a 4-man rush. Fakes it, does Horn, now has to find some room to work with, and he's going to be brought down after gaining a couple, but wrapped up there by Jake Whitecamp, the graduate student from Woodstock, Georgia, in his 5th season here for the Barry Vikings, one of a couple of 5th-year seniors that anchors this Viking defense, and he brings up 3rd and 6 for the Tigers.
Yeah, and similar to what we saw in the first half, Horn opening up one way and then fully turning his back to the defense on the fake handoff before rolling out the opposite direction. But that time, Barry secondary doing much better to continue to drop. No one getting behind them right there, and Horn forced to tuck it as he is forced to do again here, and he's ultimately going to go down right around the original line of scrimmage. So Tigers go backwards right there, and now the kicking unit's going to come onto the field.
And it was Whitecamp again, you'll see right here, number 35, making his presence felt defensively for the Vikings, and it'll set up a 38-yard field goal for Blake Lynn, who just a week ago nailed his career-long 34 up in Memphis. Got to talk to him earlier this week. Found out his favorite candy is Kit Kat. So we'll see if he can earn some sweet chocolate and vanilla here on 4th and 10. Blake Lynn's kick is blocked, and the Vikings chasing after it and picking it up there. Nick Willis has room to work, and Nick Willis is going to march into the end zone for a Barry touchdown. An attempt at 3 points by Blake Lynn turns into 6 for Barry. And already 3 minutes into this half, a back and forth battle for the Vikings and the Tigers.
So we'll see the replay right here. Timing looks pretty good on the Trinity side, but just a great rush up the middle. An absolutely huge push knocks the middle of the line backwards, and that one from a bit further out than usual for Blake Lynn, perhaps, forcing that lower launch angle on the kick. That one blocked rather easily by Barry, and they're going to convert the extra point right there to knock this one at 14 after the Tigers had the huge play out of halftime, forcing the fumble and recovering it. All of a sudden, things are tied up here in San Antonio.
So not the start the Tigers were looking for, all tied up 3 minutes into the half. And now we do have a very special guest in the booth getting ready to join us. So Luke, we'll see you in a few minutes, and Jeremy Boyce will jump on with us as soon as he gets his headset on. very excited to have Jeremy along with us, just fresh from his induction into the Trinity Hall of Fame. And Jeremy, welcome to Tiger Network.
Ryan, so happy to be here. This is really exciting. Thank you for having me on today.
Of course. First of all, congratulations. What an honor.
Oh, it's overwhelming, man. It is surreal to be here and have, you see your picture up on that wall, and it just means so much to me. And there's so many people that helped me get there, so I'm just thankful for them and excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. If you're a Tiger fan or a Barry fan at home, not sure why Jeremy Boyce is being inducted into the Hall of Fame, well, let's give you some numbers as this kickoff is off to the Tigers. Brought down around the 30, but Jeremy Boyce, all-time leader at Trinity in all-purpose yards, single-game rushing yards with 305 in a game, and ultimately career rushing yards, 4,409 rushing yards. Jeremy, those numbers, along with, as Coach Urban talked to us about this week, your leadership as a captain make you a no-doubt fire into this Hall of Fame.
Thank you. It's always weird to hear them and hear the numbers and hear the stats. I never really did it for that. It was just, we were an awesome team. So to be able to play with guys who, we had an amazing quarterback in Roy Hampton. We had amazing wide receivers in Jeremy Urban. So we put up some really cool numbers.
First play for the Tigers here is a carry. Perfect timing. Winston Hutchison and Jeremy, what do you see from these running backs? As I know you're all the way here from New Zealand. Is that right?
Yeah.
So do you get to tune in to Tiger Network and see these Tigers from New Zealand?
Every weekend I am waking up early so I can see this amazing broadcast that you guys put on and analyze the team. I'm a diehard Trinity fan for life, so I definitely watch all of them.
So what was it like to come all the way from New Zealand for this induction ceremony?
It was worthwhile, and it was something that I would absolutely do it all over again if I could.
Nice completion here to Matthew Kovacevic. Gets a first down for the Tigers as Horn faced some pressure and trying to impress Jeremy Boyce here in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, these backs, though, are great. And having this system of multiple backs coming through, they stay fresh, and they're talented. Each bring a little bit different thing to the game. Some downhill, some speed, a little bit of the shake. It's a great system that Coach Urban has with these guys and uses them effectively.
First and 10 coming from Trinity's 45. It is Winston Hutchison in the backfield. Looks like he'll get the handoff, goes to his right, and gets a gain of about 4 on first down. And Jeremy, a question I have for you is just what did Trinity football really do for you in your life?
It did more than I could probably ever put into words. The access to this amazing university and the education that it brought. It changed my life, and it changed the life subsequently for my family and my kids. So it really taught me how to work hard. It pushed me to be able to do things that I didn't think I could. But I also joined a community that is so much love. The love I've been getting since I've been here from my friends and family and all that stuff, it's just been, it's been a lot. So I can't help but tear up every once in a while when it all starts to happen. Damon Garza, for example, he was the senior when I was a freshman running back. So he taught me a lot, and I learned a bit from him, and he surprised me today because he had organized everyone getting T-shirts that had 13 on them and Hall of Fame Jeremy Boyce on the back. So I'll show up at the tailgate, and all these people are wearing my number. It's just overwhelming. It's really fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Very well deserved for sure.
Thank you.
Third and 6 coming up for the Tigers. They try to bounce back. Game all tied up at 14 after that blocked kick that was returned for a touchdown. Caleb Crawford going into motion. Barry rushing just 4. Horn has time to work, and the ball is tipped at the line, bringing up 4th down for the Tigers.
Seems like the team has a little bit of flow. It's but the offense kind of sputtering a little bit, but the defense is still playing really well. And they're a little bit of bend but don't break, but I think they've stepped up. And they've had to have some pieces plugged in because of injuries, but it's nice to see that we have a team that's next man up, and they actually get in and keep things moving forward. So it's a great team. Really excited watching them.
Yeah, Tiger fans all year have been pumped to see this team remain undefeated with that 6-0 record. The punt from Gaiman off. Fair catch called by Lions, and the Vikings will take over. But Jeremy, this is not just your Hall of Fame induction, but you're also here to celebrate 20 years since the Stag Bowl, Trinity making it to the Division III championship back in '02. Can you believe it's been 20 years already?
I cannot. I absolutely cannot. Time has flown by, and I still have vivid memories of that game and that season. And it was really just a transformative experience, and I think it was one of those things that put this program, on a bigger map. It really did. So I think people will play their lives of football and never had the experience that we had in those 4 years, and especially during that run with the talent we had, the coaching, and how it just gelled. I tell people it was like we got to a point we didn't have to talk. We would change plays, we would read blitzes, we would do what we need to do without ever saying anything to each other. We were just on the same page. Between Roy as the quarterback, myself running, the offensive line was amazing. The defense was, it was stout, and practices were tense because you had one of the best defenses going against one of the best offenses, and we just made us all better. So it was an amazing season. It really, really was. It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we're still, I have nothing but great pride for what we were able to accomplish that year.
A lot of people are hoping that this 2022 season will be a repeat of that 2002 season and maybe get over that hump at the end. Another run coming for the Vikings this time. The Tigers all over it. They've had some good push, have the Vikings, but on this one it is Charles Gilbert getting into the backfield and stopping the Vikings for no gain. Third down coming up, and Jeremy Boyce, you also played with Jeremy Urban, who is the head coach here at Trinity, and he talked to Luke Terry and I this week and said he sees you every day. He has a sign in his office of you and him at the Stag Bowl. And can you just talk a little bit about what it's like not only to have played with Coach Urban, but see him continue to be such a success as the head coach for the Tigers?
His success really has come from hard work and focus, and that's what's made him successful here as a student and as an athlete. And it's what made him successful in the NFL. To go 9 seasons in the NFL is almost unheard of there we go.
Big time sack by Ezra Gore. And love the cheer from Mr. Boyce right here. He is excited, as are the Tiger fans. Big stop on third down to bring up 4th and 15.
Yeah, it was amazing to do that and work with him and be able to come back. And, we played together and we had that relationship together, but then also to work together when I was working here and overseeing recruitment. So Ezra Gore, who made that tackle, we worked really hard to recruit because he's a brilliant student and really phenomenal athlete. So to be able to have a friend that you're working with, and he knows I'm passionate about making this team better and making it succeed. And I think that was just a really rare opportunity to have a good friend of yours to be able to work with on the way we did.
Yeah, that is a super unique way to help out the team as this punt off and bouncing at the 45. Trinity will take over in Viking field position, but Coach Urban even saying some people kept asking for Coach Boyce, where can I talk to Coach Boyce? And he said, let's slow down. You're not quite a coach, but you did play a key role in it, so much so that he said that he texted you after they won the SAA title a year ago and saying you played a pivotal part in that championship.
Yeah, it's amazing. There was so much pride to see the guys that we worked so hard to recruit that are going and being successful. And Coach Urban's just chipped away. It was not an overnight thing, and he always said it wasn't going to be an overnight thing. We had a losing season his first time out, and then just every season he got a little bit better, and now he's done it in a sustained way. So now this type of talent should continue to be at Trinity, and this success should continue also.
We'll try to keep you on for one more drive, see if you can bring us a touchdown, and that's a good start to the drive. A catch by the first-year Will Taylor. Nice gain on first down, and it'll put the Tigers right around the marker, 2nd and short.
It's a good thing some of this young talent be able to get some time on the field, and significant time at important areas. It just leads to more success in the future. One of the things that made our team so successful is that a lot of us, including Coach Urban and myself and Roy, we all started starting our sophomore year. So we played 3 years together. That made us gel so much. So getting some of these young guys on the field is going to be really beneficial down the road.
Horn looking for one of the veterans, Ryan Merrifield, just out of reach. But if you look at the back of the play, a penalty flag thrown. Horn taking a big hit, and it might be roughing the passer. That would give the Tigers a first down, and that is exactly what the call is. So a freebie for the Tigers, getting ever so closer to that Viking end zone.
Yeah, that was just off the fingertips of Merrifield. He's a phenomenal athlete. I remember when we were working hard to recruit him too, and we knew he was going to be special down the road. And it's great to see that actually kind of come to fruition a bit there. But yeah, that was a very late effort, and he gave him something there at the end of it, even though the ball was well gone. So well deserved on that penalty.
1st and 10 from the Barry 21. Will Taylor at the top of the screen. Cole Manego at the bottom. BJ Rainey out from the backfield in motion. Horn looking to his left. Going to Rainey, perfectly placed, but just off on the timing. And it'll be 2nd and 10. You wanted that one, Jeremy.
That was a lovely play. It was a lovely play design. How he pulled the safeties over and then left it one-on-one with that backer. He was beat. It was just, if that ball had just been, I don't know what, it was a little bit off, but he was beat. It was a beautiful play design. There was nothing there to stop him on that one. This is how I am at home, too. I'm usually watching this in New Zealand, and I'm in airports because I'm always doing things and yelling about what's going on in these games because I just get so into it because I love it. I'm too passionate about it sometimes, but it's great to see the success they're having.
I don't think you can be too passionate. Horn back to pass again over the middle. It is Cole Manego, and a nice move by Manego will make it a 3rd and very, very short. The official spotting it right near the marker. And Manego, another one of those guys who is stepping up when called upon. Austin Burtness and BJ Stewart not in there for the Tigers. And so Manego, number 3 there, the junior from Houston, making the reception and making it 3rd and 1 halfway through the 3rd quarter.
These backs are leaking out of the backfield and not really being covered that well. So hopefully they'll take advantage of that.
We'll see. It is Legend Grigsby right behind Tucker Horn. Crawford called into motion. And a play action wide open.
Yes, sir.
And he brings it in for the score. Caleb Crawford with the approval of the Hall of Famer himself, Jeremy Boyce, and put 6 on the board for the Trinity Tigers.
Hey, you know what? You prophesized this. Like, I just need to stay up a little bit longer so we can get this. So you know what you're doing. It's like you're a professional at this or something, huh?
I try my best, that's for sure. But it is all the Tigers on the field with Blake Lynn now attempting the extra point. And one last thing I want to ask you. You're not just a Hall of Famer. You're not just a champion here at Trinity. You were my professor my freshman year, hip-hop, innovation, and sport, part of the sport management program here at Trinity. I miss that class. I miss you as a professor. What do you remember from that class and getting to teach it?
Oh, it was so cool to be able to tap into that side of me and just have these like really in-depth dialogue about a really cool area that, you know, people don't really, there's some classes to. It was a really cool class that we're going to talk about hip-hop and the evolution of that and how it impacted American society and like the conversations and the way that all these personal impacts. And, you know, you've had experience because you're born in Mexico and you're here, so your family has certain experiences. Therefore, you read into the music and the experience differently than I would have, being, you know, an African-American growing up here. And then white people, there was just all these conversations that we had about this area. And it just was one of those classes where it was like, that's every day you just went to it like, I'm looking forward to going to class this day. You know, I am a bit of a nerd also, so I enjoy that type of stuff. But I think all the students also enjoyed doing that, especially our finals where we had to rap, put together a rap that kind of summarized the class for that semester. So that was pretty good. We're going to make sure no one ever hears my rap, but it was good, though.
It was a blast. I never thought I'd be rewriting Lizzo's Truth Hurts for a final in a class, but I did just that, wrote Hip Hop Hurts. But Jeremy Boyce, Hall of Famer, congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. It really has been a pleasure.
Hey, my pleasure, and I appreciate the work y'all do. Y'all do a great job. I think it's one of the best. I watch all these games, so I see some away stuff, and I'm like, it's still, we do it really, really well here. So good job. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Jeremy Boyce, Hall of Famer, leaving the air as the Tigers kick off up 21-14. We'll have Luke Terry rejoining us shortly, and some confusion on the kickoff return will allow the Tigers to pounce on the returner out at about the 20. And the Tigers taking advantage of the opportunity presented to them on that last drive. It has been a crazy half, and so lucky to have Jeremy join us for that. You saw a blocked field goal from Blake Lynn that ended up in a game-tying touchdown from the Barrie Vikings. But the Tigers not hanging their heads at all, driving all the way down the field and getting a touchdown from Caleb Crawford. Luke, glad to have you back.
Glad to be back. A lot of really great insight from Jeremy Boyce. Obviously, such a great honor and so deserving for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame today. But I think the best part of that was watching him watch this game and how excited and how enthusiastic he was to be in the booth here today. And the knowledge that he's watching from halfway across the world, the fact that he's a Tiger for life, and way that he has invested in this team is just really great to see, frankly.
You heard it here, folks. Tiger Network spreads across the globe. We are being listened to all the way in New Zealand. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that interview and hope you enjoyed that Caleb Crawford touchdown that now puts the Tigers up here. And we have a quarterback change as well for the Barrie Vikings in the middle of it all. After that last drive, it is Gavin Gray who has taken over for the Vikings. A little high snap to him. He still hands it off. But the Tiger defense is smothering Caleb Harmel, the man there to wrap up Brandon Cade. And Gavin Gray, we talked about it at the very top of the broadcast. He started in the first 4 games of this year, but Coach Tony Konchesky had gone to Blake Embry the last 2 and started this one with him. But Gavin Gray, the senior from Calhoun, Georgia, coming into today with 930 passing yards, 6 touchdowns. And he's someone, Luke, that started way back in his freshman year. He has the experience. He has what it takes. And now looking for a reverse spark, Coach Konchesky goes to his senior.
Yeah, you talk about the experience, and that's certainly what you want in a situation like the one we have here in San Antonio. This game incredibly, incredibly close. You mentioned that blocked punt, and it ultimately wound up in a tied football game, but Trinity coming back, and now Barrie going to have to come from behind. What looked to be a completion was ultimately ruled to have hit the turf as Cowell was trying to contort his body to catch that one behind him. Ultimately would have been enough for a first down, it looks like, but instead Vikings are going to trot their punting unit back out there. Trinity's going to have the ball again in the third quarter. About 5 minutes left on the clock. Opportunity to expand that lead a little bit.
So a bit of a break with Kawa, the sure-handed receiver, not able to come up with it. And the Tigers will get the football back, looking to expand the lead. Will Taylor calls the fair catch, and the Tigers will be back out there under the direction of Tucker Horn, who on that last drive made a little bit of history with his 222 yards passing today. He is now 5th all-time in Trinity history. He came into today just 195 behind Austin Grauer, but Horn has moved into 5th place, so congratulations to him. And I'm sure Coach Grauer, who is still a coach here at Trinity, a defensive backs coach, would approve of Tucker Horn passing him in the leaderboard. So congratulations to Tucker, as he's back out there having thrown 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well. But it has been a pretty good day still for number 5. He hands it off to 25, and Winston Hutchison with a gain of about 5 on first down.
Yeah, nice carry there, and now I think we're seeing what we expected to see kind of all offseason, Brian, is just steady doses of Winston Hutchison. Healthiest he's been all season, I think it's probably safe to say. And now he's in there more frequently than we've seen him to any point so far this season. Got the carry there on first down, still behind Tucker Horn right here on second, and now a 2nd and 5.
Handoff again to Hutchison. This time Hutchison not going to get very far, brought down in the backfield. Looks like it was Andrew Wynn, the freshman from Cartersville, who was the first to get there. And so the Barrie defensive front holding strong. It was in fact their number 6. So a 3rd and 6 coming up. 3:40 left in the third quarter. Been an explosive quarter already. What will Horn and offensive coordinator Wade Lytle draw up here? 4 receivers out there. Hutchison, Rainey called into motion. And here goes Horn. Gonna try the quarterback. Hutchison had an opening, but just couldn't quite connect as it was too far off on the sideline. And a Barrie stop will get them the ball back.
Yeah, and on that play, you see in the replay, B.J. Rainey again going in motion across the field. It set up Ryan Merrifield kind of in the flat area right there on a little comeback route about 5 yards deep. Pulled the corner and the safety to him. That linebacker was beat by Hutchison right there. Tucker Horn just couldn't get his feet set to deliver a strike on target. So a missed opportunity there for the Tigers, as it looked like he had a lot of turf out there in front of him. Now the field position game coming into play as that punt, not the greatest on the afternoon from Eli Gaiman. Fair caught by the Vikings at their own 47. So great starting field position for Barry right here.
Gavin Gray will take over from his own 48, looking to engineer a touchdown drive, his first of the game, taking over after the halftime mark. But we haven't seen Gray really air it out much in his time. He continues to hand it off to his running backs, and why not when they are playing the way that they are. Mentioned at the start of this game that no team had crossed the century mark in rushing yards against this Trinity defense. Well, the Barry Vikings, the very first team to do that, now up to over 120 yards of rushing, and it is thanks to what continues to be just a balanced attack. Josh Rogers with 61, Brandon Cade with 52, and they are chipping away at this Trinity defense and at this Trinity lead. But they're not going anywhere. Agumadu wraps him up and brings him to the ground, making it 3rd and long for the Barry Vikings.
And a great play from Agumadu right there. Just an absolute bull rush, overpowering the right tackle for Barry, getting into the backfield, and at that point doing a nice job of shedding that blocker, getting his arm out there and stopping the running back in the backfield before the rest of the Tigers swarmed there to create a 3rd and long here at midfield.
Not a position the Vikings want to be in. Will the Tigers send pressure? They showed it, and they made a false start out of the left tackle, David Billard. Got a little antsy there as Mac Douglas and Ezra Gore were showing pressure from either edge, and make it 3rd and even longer, 3rd and 14. As the cowbells will begin to ring out from the Trinity stands. We've got a great crowd on hand, alumni weekend, Hall of Fame weekend. We've got the volleyball team in the stands now after their sweep of Centenary. So can the Vikings overcome it all? Looking to the sideline for the call, Gavin Gray, newly into the game, 0 for 1, but he will have to throw it here more likely than not. Or not, he does hand it off, but you can see why that wasn't the best option. Agumadu again wraps up the man, and 4th down for the Vikings.
Yeah, and just great play from the Trinity defense right here. One thing that we saw a lot in that first half, Brian, was in those 3rd and long situations, Trinity dropping back a little bit, especially with those linebackers. They dropped some guys off the edge of that defensive line, played with a 3-man front. The box stayed loaded right there, though, unfortunately for Barry. Only a 3-yard pickup, and now they're going to be forced to punt it again. We'll see as the Trinity return men stand deep near their own end zone if they'll let that one go into the end zone. Instead, it's going to be fair caught at about the 4 instead of letting it bounce. So Trinity again pinned back deep in their own territory. They're going to need to go basically the full length of the field if they want to find the end zone here in San Antonio. About 45 seconds left in the 3rd quarter, and I really want to talk about the quarterback change that we saw from Barry, Brian.
Yeah, it's a very interesting decision for sure. Blake Hembry going 6 for 12, just 44 yards, so not the sharpest day at all, but no real mistakes to talk about, just that one interception to Trey King that landed right in his arms. But no quarterback change for the Tigers, that's for sure, as Tucker Horn takes it over. But it'll be a tough spot for them to work out of. Justin Carmouche gets back to the line of scrimmage, maybe gains a yard as we head to the end of the 3rd quarter. And the Tigers might just be content with flipping the field, and it looks like they certainly are.
Going to be a tough position here, pinned back near their own goal line. I'm sure Barry, cognizant of that, expecting the run. You know, the things that Trinity does or likes to do offensively to combat that in these types of scenarios, Barry has done a good job defensively of taking those away. The little checkdowns to the running back out of the backfield haven't been as successful. Barry linebackers have done a really good job in coverage. Trinity's tried to counter with some balls further down the field on some wheel routes, just haven't been able to connect so far here today. So some things that hopefully Trinity will be able to change in this final quarter, but for now they'll be satisfied with a 7-point lead.
And both teams will have to make the long jog all the way across the field, but I guess nothing compared to the walks that these Barry students have to make on a day-to-day basis. If you don't know at home, Barry College in Mount Berry, Georgia, the largest university in the entire world when it comes to acres, 27,000 acres. Can you imagine having basically a forest and a mountain to yourself, Luke?
I can't. I frankly cannot imagine it. I think that my life is hard enough as it is walking around Trinity's campus. You throw Cardiac Hill in there, and I'll call it a day. That's enough for me.
100%. I mean, I make decisions. I plan out my day to ensure I strategically avoid Cardiac Hill or only have to go through it once. So 27,000 acres, that is something.
Absolutely. And, the other thing, we might have a long way to go north and south, but we're sandwiched in here nice. Not too difficult to get across campus, east and west, Brian. So I cannot imagine what they suffer through out there in Georgia.
Dangerous play here as Carmouche refuses to go down, but almost got dragged back into the end zone with that decision. This Barry defense stepping up right now, forcing a 3rd and long, and the Tigers have it from inside their own 5. You could see Carmouche continues to just try to work through it, but ultimately it was Elohim Hull, the leading tackler. So 14:30 left in this fourth quarter, just getting underway. Trinity up 7, but they face a 3rd and 12 deep inside their own territory. Horn has to be careful. Will the Vikings elect to send pressure? They are showing their linebackers in. They do come. Horn taking some time. Dangerous throw across the middle. Lands harmlessly, but nearly a 3rd interception on the day. John Mancuso just inches away from taking that one away. And a 4th and 12 punt coming from the end zone.
Yeah, and a little bit of contact there, but that one coming as both were making a play on the football. I think now most important to note is the fact that already once this half, we saw Barry block a field goal attempt, and another time they came really, really hard in an attempt to block a punt. And now with a shortened field right here for the Tiger special team unit, important to get this one off.
Gaiman does get it off. Lions will be on the receiving end. Takes a very neutral bounce and turns into a Barry bounce. And they'll take over again with very solid field position already in Trinity territory. So Nate Lyons, the returner, came into today averaging more than 12 yards per punt return. That is one of the top measures in the country, 19th across Division III. So he's been held off, but he hasn't had to do much with this field position that they've given him.
Absolutely, Brian. And now perhaps a better time to talk about the quarterback change. You mentioned when I brought it up last the fact that Hembry didn't play particularly well, but hadn't made any egregious mistakes. You mentioned that one interception, but kind of just a matter of positioning for Trey King as the pump fake going to try and open things up, but ultimately it won't, as Gray is swamped and brought down right about at the line of scrimmage there. Looks like there's going to be a stop in play. It appears to be Harris Good down on the turf right now, grasping his knee as he waits for the trainers to make their way out there.
Definitely not what you want to see if you're a Tiger fan. Harris Good has been dealing with some injuries all season long. So we'll take a break on Tiger Network as the trainers tend to Harris Good. Good to see Harris Good walking off the field. Hopefully it is just a cramp. We talked about how it is still very steamy in San Antonio, 85 degrees currently on this very sunny afternoon. And after that little break, 2nd and 11 coming for the Barry Vikings. Gavin Gray at quarterback takes a high snap, is going to be brought down. Ball is out, but he is able to get on top of it in the matter of seconds. But it was Jacob Munoz who continues to disrupt the line, bringing Gray down.
Yeah, and just a lucky break for the Vikings right there. Looks like Gray lost that one on his hip. He's headed behind his back as you see it right there, and then ultimately just falls in his lap with a couple of Tigers looking like they were ready to pounce on it. So now a 3rd and long for this Vikings team. Not a super manageable position right here, and about a 3rd and 20. Wouldn't be surprised to see them hand it off to try and just pick up a couple yards before they punt it off. Can be the same kind of approach, but that screen is going to be slipped, and the ball's out again for the Tigers, and that one they will have.
Yes, they will, Luke. Fumble recovered by the Tigers as they continue to just be ferocious defensively. Already 4 sacks, and now yet another takeaway. Let's take a look. You called the run. It wasn't quite the run, but it was the same idea, the little screen pass to the running back. But the Tigers not giving up an inch, and James O'Gundren charging down. Knees might have been down. Hard to tell from that first look, but the Tigers take over from their own 41. So the field position that Barry has gotten has not come to fruition. Tigers looking to really put this game away if they can put up a nice long drive that ends up in points.
Yeah, and this Trinity defense has really locked things down since that one offensive score for this Barry side. Obviously 14 points on the board, but that second touchdown coming after the blocked kick. But this Trinity defense has been stout this entire second half. Barry hasn't had the same opportunities in the running game. They made the switch at quarterback, but even Gray hasn't had much of an opportunity to try and get many attempts off. So now the Tigers, after that big stop, with Barry looking to threaten in Trinity territory, have the opportunity to move it down the field and eat some time off the clock.
Major pressure sent by the Vikings, but nothing Ryan Merrifield can't handle. Merrifield with a first down as Tucker Horn dealt with the pressure. Great coverage by his offensive line to give him that time necessary. The Vikings sending 5, including Mancuso there, coming there as the defensive back. But Merrifield crosses the 100-yard mark, 114 yards on 5 receptions and a touchdown. And the Tigers in business in Barry territory. Tucker Horn back to pass again, looking to Hutchison, and Hutchison catches it in stride. Nice gain on first down.
Yeah, and one of those flares out of the backfield. This one, really the only option in Tucker Horn's minds, looking to that side of the field all the way. A little bit more of a dart on the throw as well, instead of that looping ball that he usually drops in over the top. So a good play right there to pick up a nice 6 yards, and Trinity continuing to move the ball down the field. Ryan Merrifield now offset by himself at the bottom of the screen. Wouldn't be surprised to try and see him win on the outside.
Merrifield is the target, but he is upset at himself. You can see him punching the ground, just enough of a slip-up to make it difficult for him to come up with the catch. It was Wynn on the coverage there. 3rd and 3 now coming up for the Tigers. This is the type of area of the field that we have seen the Tigers go for it on 4th down countless times. And so would not be surprised to see a run or a short yardage attempt, understanding that they could go for it. Merrifield at the bottom of your screen. Rainey in the slot, and Crawford at the top. Merrifield again. This time Merrifield has it. Why not? Give him another shot. And Ryan Merrifield just continues to carve up this Barry defense. First down, Trinity.
There's a flag on the field, and a lot of the Vikings are pointing at the Trinity side. We're going to wait and see what the call is, but it looks like it's going to come back. So Trinity now going to be operating from right around the original line of scrimmage. Only a 5-yard penalty, though, so still going to be manageable in a 2nd and long, but now you have to start considering a possible 2-down territory right here if Barry can come up with a stop before the sticks.
Tough break there as the penalty was away from the ball. Ineligible man downfield. Not my favorite penalty in football, but not the one controlling this game here. 3rd and 9 for the Tigers. And more pressure coming from Barry Horn, able to step up. And this time the pass is broken up by Jake Witten, the sophomore, making a big play on the Tiger receiver. And so what will be the call here?
And a nice call defensively from Barry to dial up the pressure. Horn forced to throw off his back foot and ultimately couldn't get enough zip on that one to get it into Merrifield before that man in the secondary got there. But Trinity going to try and go for it on 4th down. A hard count, going to get Barry to jump right there. Probably going to be encroachment right here. The referees will come together to talk about things. I didn't see any movement off that offensive line, Brian. I know that those Vikings are trying to do their best to convince the referees of it, but that is going to be the call. Encroachment, 5-yard penalty, so they'll be in the same spot that they were for that 3rd down a couple plays ago, but now they'll have it at 4th and 4.
And you've talked about it earlier in the broadcast, Luke, one of the least penalized teams in the entire country, this Barry side. Very disciplined squad. But those 5 yards could cost them. It is still 4th down, but a 4th down that is more manageable, about 4 or 5 yards needed for the Tigers. Horn snaps it, has 4 receivers to work with, and Grigsby, he's going deep for Merrifield, and too much on it. Will give Barry the ball. No flags on the field. And so they only needed a few. They went for the home run, came up just short.
Yeah, and you really bite yourself on this one, I think, Brian. You mentioned that they only need a few, and right there you see Grigsby coming out of the backfield wide open. Not anyone around him either. Would have had enough for the catch for the 1st down and probably had some room to run as well, but Merrifield has been fed frequently today. That was his 10th. Might have been his 11th target here on the afternoon. Instead, Barry going to have the ball again, just down 7.
And look who it is for the very first time today. Bryce Herring making the reception. He has been completely shut down by these cornerbacks, a combination of Malik Ross and Trey King. But the leading receiver for the Vikings finally makes an appearance, and he gets Barry a 1st down as they charge towards midfield. Gavin Gray, his first completion of the afternoon as well. Now a reverse, right back to Gray, looking to go deep. He has a man, too much on it though. Nice coverage downfield by Phillips and King as the Tigers were ready for that trick play.
Yeah, I think the Tigers defended it really, really well, Brian. You're going to see it on the replay right here. Gray ultimately had plenty of time to throw it. Kind of intrigued by this decision to hit his his tight end. Attempt to hit his tight end, streaking down the sideline instead of the name that you just called, someone that had been held in check. Herring was running down the middle of the field, in between the seams, had maybe a step. Instead, now Barry's going to have another 3rd and long situation right around midfield as this Trinity defense remains stout.
Stout indeed. You heard Jeremy Boyce talk about it. He phrased it, and he used a phrase that we've used throughout the season, bend but don't break. It has been the motto of this Trinity defense. They've allowed more yardage than maybe they would like to allow, but when the big moments arise, the Tiger defense stands up strong. They shut out Rhodes a week ago in Memphis, and looking for another massive win here. And it'll start with a stop on 3rd and 8. Ezra Gore showing pressure off the edge. A gun run right beside him. They both do come. Gray steps up and can't get enough on that throw. The intended target, Trace Wells. But it'll be a 4th down for the Vikings. Gray looking to the sideline, might stay on there for the 4th down.
Yeah, and interesting on that defensive alignment right there. Ezra Gore coming off the edge again and essentially just switching spots with Caleb Harmel right there as he dropped into the secondary, playing somewhat of a safety position. All-American linebacker for Trinity has great speed, and One of the few guys that might have even better speed is Ezra Gore, and they've certainly used it well off the edge today, trying to get after the quarterback.
The stalemate continues here in the fourth quarter. Neither team able to get on the board. Rainey nearly there on the punt. Instead, it'll roll all the way inside the 10. Again, the Tigers will be forced to play within their 10-yard line. But the defense just continues to do an incredible job under the leadership of Coach Paul Mahalik. In his 14th year as defensive coordinator, was the 2021 American Football Coaches Association Assistant of the Year. And you can see a little bit of why with this defense that the Tigers have.
Yeah, and everything starts up front, doesn't it, Brian? They've been great in this second half, trying to control the run, much, much better than they were in that first half. And then after that, it makes the job a lot easier on this secondary. But when you have guys like Trey King, like Malik Ross, who step up in big-time games and shut down opposing receivers, things are really much easier for yourself as a coordinator.
The scrum continues several yards after the play initiated. Caleb Crawford with the catch, and then just not backing down. Barry trying to send all sorts of men to wrap him up. You see just a short little pass around the 10-yard line, and it took, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Vikings to bring him down. And eventually does go down after a gain of 7. 2nd and 3 coming for the Tigers.
An interesting approach that's been taken here in the second half. This one going to be handed off, and that one's going to be put on the ground. But it looks like Trinity will wind up with it. That's Baylor Jordan, the tight end for Trinity, who did a nice job of jumping on top of it. Not a ton of handoffs that we've seen in the second half. I think that one might have been caused by the contact with the ground. Instead, Trinity opting to go with a lot of these little checkdowns, as we saw on first down, swinging it out to the backs in the backfield, having Ryan Merrifield run these little comeback routes at about 5 yards. But now at third down, third and short, deep in their own territory. Interesting to see what they're going to do with a sniffer lined up in the backfield.
And understanding what type of importance it has riding on this play, it'll be a timeout from Coach Urban. 8:05 left here in the fourth quarter. Trinity up 21-14 over the Barry Vikings, and we've had just several of those hold your breath moments, Luke. And I think we're used to it. All last year we were like, gosh, we have only blowouts here at home. This year it has been completely the opposite. The Wheaton win in overtime, the Birmingham Miracle, and now this showdown with Barry.
Yeah, Brian, and I think for both of us it's been a welcome change. Very, very entertaining games that we've had here in San Antonio, but one of the biggest things to circle is the fact that more often than not in these games, Trinity has been in control. It has just felt like they're going to find a way to win. I think the one thing that we could say is that they've had the opportunities to really, really pull away in these games. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, Birmingham Southern kind of left the door open there. Just haven't been able to find a way to pull ahead by 2 scores here this afternoon, but certainly trying to change things right here, and it would be a great time to do so as the clock winds towards just about halfway through this fourth quarter.
Out of the timeout, Tucker Horn, joined by Carmouche in the backfield, has 4 receivers to work with. Barry sends some pressure, and the ball is on the ground. Horn somehow able to get it. Now still looking to pass. A penalty marker thrown. Horn now just running with it. He gets the first down for the moment, but have to believe that will be a holding call on number 55, Drake Hebert, and that's exactly what it is. So crisis averted, but still not a good outcome for the Tigers.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you're going to circle and say good job here is the fact that Tucker Horn picks up the ball and ultimately reaches to pick up that first down. I'm not sure about that holding call right there. Maybe he had him on the jersey and for that reason was able to twist him down to the ground, but they were head up. It didn't look like the defender was trying to disengage, and Tucker Horn was ultimately headed in the other direction.
Drake Hebert filling in at left tackle typically see him on the right tackle side, but he is filling in for John Hughes, the preseason All-American who has not been in there for the Tigers. So Hebert doing a nice job all season long. One of the few Tigers to play in every game, but there with the holding penalty. 3rd and 11, Horn in his own end zone and just gets it away. Was his knee down? Incomplete pass is the call. But really testing the limits here is Horn, getting away with a couple. Thankfully for him, it'll just be a 4th and 11 and a punt.
And great presence of mind to try and throw this one away. The receiver somewhat in the area. But again, have to circle this unit and the importance of special teams right here. Eli Gaiman again going to punt from his own end zone. Set Barry up in nice field position the last time he did so. But also the fact that they've blocked a kick and have come hard on these punts. They did so again there, but a much better job as he puts that one high in the sky and lets the coverage unit do its job.
That was close right there in the end zone, but Gaiman has been masterful today. That is his 6th punt, and he is averaging 41 yards, so doing his job as the punter. He was all SAA second team last year, and he has earned that spot as the punter here today. You never know who the MVP of a game will be, and the punter, not the man you want to call when you're on offense, but sometimes you just have to, and he has come through for sure. But Barry still with very favorable field position. Gavin Gray at the helm, and he avoids a big-time hit. Escapes for a gain of 1. But right there, the running back on the option design, Brandon Cade, was demolished.
Yeah, just a great job attacking. The point of attack right there was Charles Gilbert. Gray does a nice job pulling it, but not a ton of room to work on the outside. Great speed from these defensive backs and linebackers able to get there, but also important to note, Harris Good checking back into the game. That one going to go right through the hands of the tight end, Williams. Another short little check down throw from Gray, but again, an incomplete pass, a drop from one of these receivers leads to another long 3rd down. And as the clock continues to tick here in the 4th quarter, now under 7 minutes, you have to imagine, even at midfield, kind of nearing the point in time where you have to start thinking about what you're going to do on 4th downs.
Gavin Gray, back to pass, short, well short, nearly intercepted by Caleb Harmel. And with no gain on 3rd down, will the Vikings elect to go for it? The decision is being made, and the decision is no. In comes the punting unit one more time for the Barry Vikings. Matthew Severson has been busy along with Eli Gaiman. And Gavin Gray, 2 for 7 on the day since coming in for the second half. So combined 8 for 19 are these Barry quarterbacks, just not able to handle the pressure from the Trinity defense.
Will Taylor back to receive again, the freshman for the Tigers. Not the usual return man. Going to see what he opts to do. Is this one not a great punt for Barry? It's going to take a nice, favorable Trinity bounce and end up at the Tigers' 35-yard line. Taylor, a couple punts ago, near his own end zone, opting to take the fair catch at the 5-yard line. So I was wondering what was going to happen there in a similar position. But a bad punt right there ultimately ends up in great field position for the Tigers, who, for one of the first times in the last couple of possessions, are out of the shadow of their own end zone to start a drive.
Much friendlier turf to work with, that's for sure, when you start from your own 35 rather than your own 5. So Horn looking to take advantage and wind this clock down just a little bit. Winston Hutchison on the run, 1st down. Gets about 4 yards. As the clock will tick down below 6 before the next play is called. And Luke, in our meeting with Coach Urban, he told us, it'll come down to football 101. Conversions, field position, and turnovers. The Tigers winning the turnover battle, winning the conversion battle. The field position game has been a little iffy, but that punt could be a key as the Tigers get it in much more favorable position and see what they can do with it. Horn to Will Taylor, just a little underneath route, and Taylor does a nice job to scurry past the sticks, and it'll be a first down for the Tigers.
Yeah, I think you point out and you put emphasis on the right thing right there, Brian. Just getting past the sticks right after you talk about the emphasis that this coaching staff put on conversions. A first down right there, absolutely huge. And now I think after all game long, we got used to seeing the big play attempts, and a couple of times that they hit that home run ball, Tigers going to opt to take the more methodical approach, continue to hand the ball to the running backs, check it down on short little passes like that, and just try and eat as much clock as possible as we near about 5 minutes left here in the fourth quarter.
Bursting through and nearly taking off with it is Winston Hutchison. A shoestring tackle towards the end of it by Hull kept him from going further, but that's exactly what the Tigers are looking for. Move those sticks again. Trinity, first down.
First down, 42.
And again, Tigers taking a long time peering over to the sideline. Tucker Horn getting the call, but the clock is already rolling again as the sticks have been set. Play clock going to wind all the way down under 10 seconds before they get this one off.
Another handoff. Hutchison able to get a couple, but a stronger hold for the Vikings. And at this point, the Tigers approaching field goal range, approaching the range where they also could go for it on fourth down, but it's just why that punt was so pivotal. Barry couldn't get it far as they wanted. Severson has had a great afternoon, one of the better special teams players in this conference. But now, even if it's a punt, it'll make the Vikings go a lot farther than they want to. So still a lot that could go on. What will the Vikings do defensively? Clock ticking down to 5 on the play clock. Horn snaps it. It is Grigsby that goes to his right. And after a gain of maybe 2, the scrum of Barry Vikings gets to him. So a third down and 6 coming up for the Tigers.
And a nice cut right there. Grigsby recognizing the hole created by Baylor Jordan, who's playing on the end of that line, tight end position, just to pick up a couple yards, put them in a manageable position right here, Brian, as you mentioned. The last time they were in this area of the field, you talked about the fact that this is where they are going to consider going for it on fourth down. So perhaps with the opportunity to really put this one away, that's what we'll see right here. But Tucker Horn going to drop back, check it down to Hutchison, who's going to try and escape a tackle, but he won't get any further than the 35, needing to get all the way down to about the 32 for a first down. But maybe more important than anything is the fact that he stays in bounds right there. And it looks like Urban is going to send out a couple more tight ends, bring some of those wide receivers off the field, and perhaps try and run this one, even though they need about 3 on fourth down.
Yeah, will this be just a try to draw them off sides, or are they really going for it? 4th and 3 for the Tigers. And there was movement. Who was first? Tigers say it was Barry. Officials will meet to discuss it.
And it should be on Barry, Brian. I think he came into the neutral zone, which at that point, Trinity offensive line doing a great job of reacting, making sure they make contact with him. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And at this point in the game, Brian, that's absolutely inexcusable. We've talked about this Barry side being a championship-level team program and how they're going to have a championship-level effort today, but to jump off sides 3 times in one game, and at this point in the game where you're trying to give the ball back to your offense, you just simply cannot have that, especially when this unit, this defensive unit has played really well, especially these linebackers who have come, brought pressure, and gotten into the backfield to stop this running game.
You're absolutely right, Luke. At the pivotal moment of this game, the penalty really costing the Vikings. A timeout on the way from Coach Konchesky. 1:48 left in the fourth quarter. A gain of 4 on that first down run. And we've talked about how few penalties the Barry Vikings collect during a game, but let's put some numbers to it. because it is not a lot. Coming into today, 11th in Division III with just 22 penalties across 6 games. So that is fewer than 4 penalties per game. But today already up to 5. But it's not necessarily the number of penalties. It is the situation in which the penalties have come. And we've seen a couple of offside calls on the Barry defense. First on a 4th and 9 that allowed Trinity to get closer. Ultimately didn't hurt them because Trinity didn't convert. But here, very clear penalty leading to a first down, and now forcing Barry to use their timeouts.
Yeah, Brian, and unless they can really stonewall and stalemate at the defensive line right here, Trinity needs about 6 yards before they really secure the victory. I think a first down is going to do it as Barry continues to exhaust their timeouts right here. I don't expect anything besides a couple more runs straight down the middle.
It is Hutchison in the backfield, was behind Horn, and now steps to the right of him. Great look at there on your screen, close-up of Horn. Hands it off to Hutchison. Hutchison to the right. Gains about 1. Another timeout from Coach Konchesky. Just 1 more left for Barry.
But also important to note right here, Brian, now a 3rd and 5. I don't imagine that Trinity would go for it on 4th down, but the alternative is kicking a field goal, and we know what happened the last time that Blake Lynn trotted out there. Things wound up really, really well for this Barry side, so I don't want to imagine that Trinity might punt this one away, but from about the 25-yard line, the opportunity to pin Barry within the 10, maybe close to their own 5-yard line, is on the board for the Tigers, but equally possible is the fact that ball could roll into the end zone and Barry could have it right around their 25-yard line with maybe a minute 30 or so left in this game.
What we can say is you never know what this Trinity offense is up to. Last time we were here in San Antonio, that miracle of a Carter Self touchdown with just a few seconds left. Coach Urban saying we were playing for a field goal. We were trying to tie the game up. So here you expect a run on 3rd and 5, expect to use that timeout for Barry, but could be a play action. You have Merrifield out there. You have Taylor at the bottom of your screen as well. So you just never know. Taylor called in from Horn as he's directing traffic. It will be a handoff to Hutchison. Hutchison making his way forward, but it'll not be enough. Timeout immediately called. And what a fascinating decision we have on our hands. It would be just about the same distance of a field goal as Blake Lynn had when he was blocked. So does Trinity attempt the field goal? Do they go for it on 4th down? It'll all be discussed here by Coach Urban and Coach Lytle.
But a nice pickup right there on that 3rd down play creates a much more enticing 4th and 2, I'd say, Brian. I mentioned the possibility of a punt right here and the fact that you could pin them within their 10. It could also roll into the end zone. If you go for it here and ultimately don't get it, they'd be in worse field position than they would be on a touchback. Right? And with now a minute 40 left on the clock, a couple seconds will come off no matter what the Tigers choose to do with this play right here. A minute 30 and the need to go almost the full length of the field with no timeouts is a tall task for an offense that struggled, especially here in the second half.
And I think that's the key right there, too. It's not much of a risk considering that if you go for it, you don't get it. You put a Barry offense that has only scored 7 points, the rest of the 7 coming from the special teams unit. So you have to trust the defense, and that is exactly what the Tigers are doing. 4th and 2 from the Barry 22. A first down all but seals the game.
One thing you can't have is a jump off sides right here. Those linebackers creeping up, but it looks like Trinity's not going to risk it. They'll take the timeout of their own, but we'll have to see what exactly they're going to do. Are they going to send out a different unit offensively? Will the kicking unit trot out there for a field goal try? Might we see Eli Gaiman try and angle one out of bounds?
Barry finally not jumping offside. That's what hurt them earlier in this quarter. But will they get another chance, or will Blake Lynn go out there for the field goal? Blake Lynn talking to me earlier this week saying He works all game long right alongside his holder, Eli Gaiman, to continue to be ready no matter the moment, but it looks like he will not be called upon here, at least at first look. Tucker Horn and his offense heading back out there. Trinity still with the 1 timeout. Barry, no timeouts left.
And interesting to see, does the Barry defense, now that Trinity has sent the offense out on 4th down, taken a timeout, and sends them back out, do they think they're more likely to go for it and snap the ball here? Or maybe it's another decoy by Coach Urban, again trying to get them to jump off sides when, as you mentioned, they still have that timeout on the board.
You've got 4 receivers out there for the Tigers. Legend Grigsby in the backfield, but not anymore. 5 wide for the Tigers. Is it reality? Are they going for it? Merrifield lined up in the slot. Might be the go-to. Play clock down to 7. It is snapped by Horn. He looks right across the middle. Catch is made, says the official. It'll be a Tiger first down. And that should all but do it. What a delay by the official, holding our breath. But it looks like it is B.J. Rainey, the second of the Scooter Boys, playing for his teammate and roommate B.J. Stewart today, and he makes what could be the biggest play of the game.
And not a huge window right there. And in addition to that, it didn't seem to be a referee in great position to make that call. It ended up being the referee on that Barry sideline who was still hearing it from the coaching staff. There's no surprise there, but a flag flies here on what looks to be unsportsmanlike conduct going against Barry. So ball will move just a little bit closer to the end zone, but I think Trinity now satisfied to just take a couple of knees, let the clock run out with just a minute and a half left here in San Antonio.
Every week it is someone new on this Trinity side, and it continues to be that receiver room. I think back to a conversation as the official explains the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Barry. Think back to a conversation that I had with Austin Burtness, one of 2 super seniors on this team. And he told me that the receiver room is a tight-knit group, each one of them consistently hanging out with one another, always helping each other out. And every week it just continues to be someone new. Last time we were here, it was Ethan Boyer and Carter Self, and now today, B.J. Rainey, when it matters most, coming through for the Tigers. And with the Barry Vikings having no timeouts left, 1:14 on the clock, you see the Tigers in victory formation. Horn will just have to snap it, take a knee, and he'll do that one more time and give Trinity a victory.
Yeah, and you talk about B.J. Rainey coming up with that huge catch right there, just requiring such great concentration. It was Elohim Hull who was in coverage for the Vikings right there, and I think it was Hull who got both of those unsportsmanlike conduct penalties right there, so he was actually ejected from the contest after that second one. I'm not sure what type of rules there are in NCAA upon ejections from games. I know there's some things that get rumored after targeting and whatnot, but Trinity, after that kneel from Tucker Horn, is just going to let the rest of the clock run out with a victory here on Alumni Weekend.
And let the confetti fly. You see it on your screen. A packed house in San Antonio. The flag waving on full display. Of course, we have Brett Thornton's dad coming over from the volleyball gym to wave that white Trinity flag. But the teams shake hands at midfield, and the Tigers escape with yet another tight victory at home. The last 3 times we've been here with you folks, we've had wins of 3 points, 1 point, and 7 points. But you know what? We'll take it any way we can. The Tigers remain undefeated on the year, 7-0, 4-0 in conference play, and everything still right in front of these Tigers as they seek to claim their 2nd consecutive conference championship.
Yeah, Brian, you mentioned the close games that have been played here at home, but all 3 of them resulting in victories for Trinity. And just the way that this team approaches each of these games, the ability for them to just attack each moment, taking it one game at a time, truly allows them to just frequently have the results that we see here today. They really locked down in the second half, played better on both sides of the ball, but that defense especially helped them get to the finish line with the victory.
That defense just continues to be unbelievable, holding this Barry side to 190 yards of offense. Barry was granted great field position multiple times, almost lost count of how many times they started on the Trinity side of the field, but each and every time this Trinity defense held strong, kept that running back duo in place, only allowed one completion to the leading receiver for Barry, so that defensive backfield continuing to do their job. And as the Tigers line up for the alma mater, we'll let you hear it, as always conducted by Amir Mustafa, and we'll see if anybody joins him as he waves the Trinity flag, but we'll let you enjoy it and then be back on Tiger Network to wrap up some more.
The Tigers. One of the alumni enjoy the rest of the alumni weekend.
Always a beautiful sight and sound to hear the alma mater played after a victory, and this time played after a 21-14 win. Trinity not only getting this win, but jumping in front of the all-time series with Barry, now 3-2 all-time, and perhaps most importantly, 7-0, 4-0 in conference play. Luke, everything right in front of the Tigers. They truly control their own destiny if they want to win this conference and get back into the NCAA playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a huge, huge factor that they've had these games at home this season, Brian. You can't deny that being in front of this crowd played an impact in that game against Birmingham Southern and again here on Alumni Weekend against Barry. Definitely 2 out of the 3 matchups that you circle in the conference schedule coming into this year, but they're not done yet. They're going to have to go to Danville, play center on the road if they want to really get to the finish line, finish this conference slate, and end up as champions of the SAA for a second straight year.
It should be exciting. Plenty left to play for, and thankfully so much football left here, not only in San Antonio, but for the Trinity Tigers. We hope it's a deep run well into December. You mentioned it. On the road to center are the Tigers, and they'll go to Jackson, Mississippi to face Millsap. So we'll be gone for 3 weeks, unfortunately. We will certainly miss having you on Tiger Network, but don't fret too much. We'll be back on November 12th for the season finale against Swanee. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you this one. Just look at your screen here as we get that drone coverage and now going into some replays of the game. But we're just so fortunate, Luke, to have an amazing crew, an amazing production just all around, from the cameras to the graphics to the stats, everyone that's a part of it. We're just the lucky two who get to be the voices of the game, but so many people allow us to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. And all the new wrinkles that they add in, the ability and the flexibility to get new people on the broadcast, to get a guy like Jeremy Boyce come in to talk about what Trinity means to him, what it's been like to be back here this weekend. So glad to be able to share it with the people that couldn't be here on Alumni Weekend, and for all those watching on the broadcast, but just so thankful to everyone who makes this happen.
Absolutely, and we'll be right back at it tomorrow at 11 a.m. over in Calgar Gym. The volleyball team hosts a big matchup with Colorado College, so I'll be on that one with Jade Schoenberger. Always have great coverage for you on Tiger Network, whatever the sport is. So thank you again to everyone involved. Thank you for those who tune in. And one last look at our beautiful campus in our beautiful city of San Antonio. Have a fantastic Saturday afternoon, and we'll see you soon.